What is going on, you good people? Episode 17 of Unnecessary Rambling here for you all on this beautiful Tuesday when you're watching it, on this beautiful Sunday as we're recording it. And I'm
Keep
joined
smoothing. Keep smoothing, baby. Play those horse games. Fast and Furious, baby.
Fast and Horsiest. I'm joined by Mr. Jeffrey Martin in the building. How you doing, dude?
What's up, my friend? I'm doing good, man. I'm always pumped for our discussions, our chats, talking about games. I love, man. It's always a fun time of I forgot what I was gonna say. What is it? It's a fun time of something. It's just a fun time.
It's a fun time. It's definitely
when you started saying
time.
Tuesday, I'm like, is it Tuesday we're recording? I can't believe it's Tuesday. I was like, no, it's actually Sunday. So you threw me off.
Yeah, I always kick it off and say it's, beautiful Tuesday, beautiful Sunday. I get them always mixed up. It's record on Sunday, publish on Tuesday. But hey, yeah, I think the people kind of understand the gist of it. It's a beautiful day, whatever day you're watching, recording, everything, etc. etc.3. So
and welcome everyone. We appreciate you watching. It was really cool to see when we did a little bit shorter of an episode. It seemed pretty clear to us that doing a little bit shorter one, people kind of jumped on, a little bit more rapidly once it went live. So thanks everyone for watching, like enjoying us as a little random duo on the internet. We really do want to make this a special thing. So I know Brandon's been doing it for a while. He's been killing it. So it's just really cool to see everyone being a part of it in the comments. So thank you guys. We appreciate it.
Totally agree, man. Jeffrey and I talked about it before, but it's like, there's so many podcasts out there that we have a super small community, but it's cool that we've been able to build up any kind of community. You know what I mean? There's a lot of really good podcasts that don't seem to have even, this amount of viewership. So we just appreciate the hell out of all of you for tuning in and listening to our unnecessary ramblings. But we got a good one for you today. We got a real good one for you today. We're going to do some mid-year awards here on the show. Some 2023 mid-year awards. Got some cool categories that you'll see down in the old timestamps for you to sift through. And I'm pumped for this, Jeffrey. You excited to get into your mid-year awards?
I'm excited, man. People will see that we obviously the majority of it, 90-80% of it's gaming, but we threw some other little fun, cheeky surprises in there just to kind of, we want people to get to know us just as much as we want to get to know you a little bit in the comments as we grow this going forward. So yeah, dude, it's going to be fun talking about all things we play, talking about some mid-year stuff. And yeah, dude, let's, I want to jump into, unless you have something to say, I want to jump into what you're playing. Cause all I know of what you're playing is one thing. So do you want to start with that or should I? Cause I know I have a lot of games on. I have 4 games, I think. So
you go ahead first and then, you go first and then I'll close off with Final Fantasy. Hit the games you've been playing, and then I'll close off the what we're playing segment with Final Fantasy. Is that cool with you?
So do you want me to do? I have 4 games that I've been playing, somewhat off and on this week. So do you want me to do all 4 then?
Yeah.
Right now? Okay.
Yeah.
So I won't spend too much time on these. I should clarify. I'm not, unless there's a game a la, Final Fantasy 16 that Brandon's playing where you just get so sucked into it. I tend to really just hop between games, which might mean it takes me forever to finish a game, but I really game based on my mood, if that makes sense. If I'm in like a spooky game mood, I'll try to find that. If I'm in a platforming game mood, if I'm in a horse game mood, if I'm an idiot, So the first game I've been playing is called Circus Electrique. Have you heard of this one?
Yeah.
Cool. Have you played this one?
I haven't, but the art style is freaking awesome.
So this game, I bought this game. I remember watching ACG's review about it like a year ago, and he sold this game to me. So essentially it's a turn-based. Here's the best way to describe it. If you've played Darkest Dungeon, or if you know of Darkest Dungeon, it's essentially that, but in like this cool 19th century steampunk circus London-y setting, which is all up my vibe. I love the whole circus carnival, like London-y Cockney accents. It's like that just, you give me a game like that any day and I'll play it. So Circus Electrique is essentially like you manage the circus and your performers, and then you roam the streets of London, and it's all like turn-based battles, very strategic, in-depth turn-based battles with your performers and dealing with these like steampunk baddies and electricity, hence the Electrique part. But it's from Zen Studios, and it's weird because Zen Studios usually makes like mobile games or like pinball games or like kind of like off the wall, like mini golf games, but they took a really good stab at a full on like narrative circus turn-based thing like Darkest Dungeon. I bought it when it came out, and I'll be honest, like it didn't hook me. Despite loving the style and the voice acting and the music, it didn't really hook me. But then I jumped into it this week and I can't put it down. I've probably put like an additional 5-6 hours into it. It's phenomenal. So if you like basically like turn-based games, circus settings, London stuff, like intricate Darkest Dungeon-esque gameplay, it's a blast, and the writing is good. It's just oh man, it's so freaking fun. So what do you know about it?
I that's what I was about to ask. I really don't know a ton other than like I watched the trailer. I was like, damn, that art style is really, really cool. What is so the story hook for this game is what essentially? Are you like traveling in the circus, or how do they set up the story?
So I'm gonna be again frank. I'm not good about I'm not that good at explaining story things. I just suck at this stuff. Hence why I always have to be scripted and other things. But essentially you play as like this ringmaster like family essentially that have this circus in London called the Circus Electrique. And it's all about using like electricity and Tesla stuff to like power a lot of the circus essentially that's going on. So the story is kind of like about this family who runs the circus. It's very cartoony. It's not like a serious story in that sense. But then there's like other figures that are trying to compete with their own circuses, like a mechanical one and then a traditional one. Like if you've heard of P.T. Barnum, who's like the OG, like American or whatever circus thing, that he like, you bring that in there. So it's like this familial circusy, like family story, but it kind of cartoony about like, actually, if you've seen the movie, oh shoot. What is like the magic? There's like that magic movie with Hugh Jackman and,
the singing movie, no.
It's the Prestige. Have you heard?
Okay. I don't think
it's like this magic circus carnival-ish like type movie. Anyway, it's just really cartoony and about a family circus essentially.
So like does any of the gameplay revolve around like setting up the circus and like performing? Is that kind of a premise that is dove into it all?
Sort of. So again, the gameplay is really broken up into 3 pillars. So you have like one screen that's like your circus. As you level up and grow, your circus kind of gets bigger. So you get new booths and you get new shows. And essentially you can like upgrade each of these areas of the circus with more electricity, which powers more of it. And essentially, every time you grow, you have like this list of performers that you bring on from a train. So you have like these like big old guys carrying like those big weights, that like ride a unicycle. Then you have like Spitfire flamethrowers. You have creepy freaking clowns. And then all of those you can slot into like different, like a horror carnival show or like a magic carnival show or like a London carnival show. And you slot them into like performances, but then you take that performance onto the road and you like select on a map. And then you choose like a fight or you choose to like do like this little mini game. And essentially all of this stuff just feeds back into growing your circus and furthering the story about why your circus should be the best, essentially. It's really freaking intricate. It's like unbelievably overwhelming with how intricate it is, but it's so freaking cool if you have any interest in that stuff. So
yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm gonna have to definitely put that on the old wish list. That's really unique sounding. I dig that. I dig that a lot. And the art style, like I said, is amazing. And obviously we'll have the trailers rolling and everything for people to see. But yeah, it looks so like it's striking, immediately striking.
Did you ever play Darkest Dungeon?
No, nope, never.
Because I know you don't like turn-based, obviously. Yeah. And this is heavily turn-based, so you might not like it because it's all turn-based.
Is the thing like? I just get so bored with them. Is there like difficulty settings?
There is, yeah. Like I'm playing it on easy. I don't care. That's what I do. And it's still pretty hard, but it's not like punishing. Like Darkest Dungeon's punishing. This is pretty easy on easy. The turn-based battles, you have like all these party members and moves and things like that, but it's very slow. It's very slow. So I know you like all the action. That's not really here. So
the thing with turn-based for me is if I can throw it on easy and if a story is really good or if there's other cool ideas or mechanics that are being introduced, and if I can just kind of breeze through the turn-based stuff and get to the other things I like, then I can absolutely be down with that type of turn-based game. But yeah, dude, that's a good shout out. I'm glad that you put that on people's radar because it's not one that I hear many people talk about at all.
No. And I will say, you love variety. This game is constant variety. Constant. Like you're always doing something new. So you'll like it, I think, if you enjoy the variety, which I know you do.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that on the wish list.
All right. So much for breezing through these. I'm not doing that very well, but it's fun talking about games you don't hear, I think, on other channels in general often. I think we do that pretty well with this. Sure. The next, not with this next game, I guess, but I have been playing through the Callisto Protocol. So I didn't buy it when it came out. The reviews and everything scared me off of it. And I was just like, I want to play, but I'm not spending 60, $70, whatever it was in December of last year. But I picked it up on Xbox. It's like, it was half off this week. So I bought it and I've put only about 2 hours, hour and a half into it. I love it. I really love it. And I did not expect to. I'm digging it so much. I won't say much on because I've only played a couple hours, but it's really good, and I like it a lot. I'm actually enjoying it more than the Dead Space remake, which is interesting. And I know that might be blasphemous, but like I love the Dead Space remake, but I'm enjoying this more because it is fresh, obviously. Like
it's unique.
Yeah. So I don't remember what was your history with the Callisto Protocol.
Yeah, I played through it. I finished it. I'm not. I'm lukewarm. I would say like if I had to score it, I would have put it around like a 6.7, 7.3, like somewhere in the low sevens, high sixes. I think the idea of a melee based third person survival horror game is really cool. I think some of the execution, not so much. The dodge system I think could be overhauled into something more unique instead of just holding down the, either left or right. Like I think they could overhaul that and make it unique. I hope it doesn't die. That's my big thing. I think they have something really unique there. I like the story, I like the presentation, but I hope it's sold well enough to bring a sequel or a new IP from Striking Distance. Is that the developer?
Yeah, I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah, I hope that they can get another crack at a survival horror game because they have the love for it with Glenn Schofield, and then that some of the team members that worked on the OG Dead Space.
Yeah, and obviously this isn't new information, but like you can certainly see that Dead Space DNA through and through. And I'm not going to say much more. Again, I've only played, said 2 hours. That's not much, but I will say the whole dodging mechanic is pretty naff. Like that really isn't that fun. But for me, it's more just the story and the world building really hooked me. I didn't expect that, and that actually is what really hooked me. So we'll see how that goes for the entirety of the game. But honestly, for half the price of what it was when it launched, I'm pretty blown away because they have all the updates now. So like clearly they've addressed whatever a lot of the issues were back in December. But you finished the Dead Space remake though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you love that, right?
Yeah. It's more the same. It's more of the same from the original with some overhauls to the zero gravity and, tightening up some of the gameplay. But yeah, I love it. I do agree with you though, that like the Callisto Protocol to me felt like something that it felt fresher, even like in comparison of the two. I would say like the Callisto Protocol felt like something that with enough adjustments and tinkering with that formula could really be something special. Dead Space is special, but it was special because it was unlike anything in 2008. You know what I mean?
Right. I will say, and maybe you can tell me if this comes as an ability later in the game, I really, really miss or am sad that there's not Isaac Clarke's little like bloop and he like shows you where to go. I know people hate that stuff. I adore being able to know where I need to go if I need to, and then I can explore. I haven't seen that in Callisto, and I'm like, oh, I love that so much, but it's not here. I'm assuming that doesn't come in, right?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember it being like that at all. Okay. I love that feature too. I think that is like that changed the game for survival horror, in my opinion, to eliminate some of that needless backtracking. If you didn't want to do it, if you did want to do it, it was there. There was explorability in different sections you could go back to and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. I love that little hand navigation system.
It's good. All right, this next one, I'm curious. So I'm actually really curious about my next one I've been playing because you have, and I can see behind you, you have a massive, library of original Xbox games. Do you have a game, or have you heard of a game called Enclave? Enclave. Do you have it?
Yeah, I think I do.
Here, bring it over real quick.
All right.
Show the audience. I want a demonstration. Yes, I will fill for time here. So I wanted Brandon to show this because this is a pretty unique game. So he's going to show it right now so we can see what it looks like. Sorry, I'm just talking to the audience so that we don't have dead air. So show us the cover there, Enclave. Okay. So I want to ask you first, why did you get this game? No, I can see. That's good right there. Why did you get this game?
Well, I thought the box art, it looked very like Elder Scrolls-esque in the box. When I picked it up, I don't know. It was exclusive, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
It is, or it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I never I never played this, but I just loved the box art. I loved the kind of Elder Scrolls feel of it. 12 playable characters with unique weapons, abilities, and equipment. Like that type of stuff is initially appealing to me when I see it on the back of a box. So you dove into that?
So the reason thank you for I assumed you had it just based on what I know you kind of like, and you have a massive library. So this week they kind of surprise drop Enclave HD. So they basically did, so Ziggurat Entertainment or like a couple like porting or whatever HD studio type things did a port, an HD $20 HD port called Enclave HD. It's not like a remake by any means. It's very much just like an up-res remaster. When I saw this on the Xbox shop, I think it's on all platforms, but I was so excited because I remember buying this game on my OG Xbox way back in the day, and it's a really hard game. I never got that far, but it had that Elder Scrolls like Morrowind kind of Oblivion vibe, but it's a very linear game. It's not open world. It's not open exploration. It's very much just stage to stage to stage. It's a traditional dark fantasy game about like all these different races and, kingdoms and all this dark fantasy crap. It's so cool. It's so much fun diving back into like a somewhat, up-resed version for $20. It still plays like an old game. It's very, very hard, unfairly hard. It's kind of just spamming buttons and the levels are too dark. You can't see what's happening. It's not, for all intents and purposes, a good game, but if you played the original for some reason, like I did, or I guess you have it, the HD version is a nice little polished gem, but it's not a great game. But if you like dark fantasy and like hacking and slash and stuff, it's a great little simple throwback to that era.
Nice. Okay, yeah, because I was trying for a little bit there to not to collect every Xbox exclusive, but to collect anything that was exclusive that was kind of up my alley, and that was definitely one that caught my eye. So I might just grab it on modern systems at some point and give it a little run.
I mean, the fact that there's an HD remake of a game that really no one remembers is pretty freaking awesome. And from what I've seen so far, like user reviews and things, people are digging it, and it's been selling pretty well for the publisher or whatever. So I think that's just cool to see those kind of older obscure games come back here and there. That gives hope for like a lot of the horror games we like to maybe get a second light, so.
Absolutely, man. I had an idea that, and I'll get off this tangent real quick.
No.
Think of how cool this would be if we, for like a Resident Evil spinoff game got announced at like the Game Awards or whatever, Resident Evil Revelations 3, and it takes place in sometime after RE5, and it's exploring Leon's standalone experience after, the events of RE4 and all that, and just kind of seeing a little bit more of what was going on in his life. We saw some of it with the animated stuff, but think about if he got a call and it was like just a really subtle hint that like, Leon Kennedy, there's been a dinosaur outbreak at da 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 da. So imagine if we got an announcement for Resident Evil Revelations, and then at the end of the trailer, Resident Evil Revelations 3 with Leon, and at the end of the trailer, there's like a hint at Dino Crisis. I don't know why this hit my brain. Actually, because I was watching 65. The Adam Driver 65 million years ago. He's from another planet. He's exploring. He's coming to Earth, and it's like the dinosaur times and all that, and he's battling a lot of dinosaurs and stuff. So I was just thinking about how could you possibly bring Dino Crisis back? And I think one of the sickest ways to do it would be to tie it to an announcement of an upcoming Resident Evil game, so people are like hyped, excited as hell to see Resident Evil Revelations 3, because the Revelations franchise is kind of like a beloved little gem in the hardcore Resident Evil community, the people who play everything. And then you get that and you're super hyped, but then at the end of it, it's like a tease for upcoming Dino Crisis content. I think that would be so sick, just like a nice little cherry on top.
I mean, if your excitement is anything to go by, then there's going to be other people chomping at the bit if that was announced, because there's such that crossover passion with Capcom, obviously, of just having RE and then Dino Crisis, and people so badly want that. Where I think Exo Primal, this is a tangent as well, but I think because Exo Primal, is from Capcom, I think people are going to be excited for that just because like they're trying to pander somewhat to, I think, the people that would want Dino Crisis, even though it looks to be a furthest thing from it, right?
Yeah, I think it's either going to piss people off, or it might scratch like some weird primal itch that people that want to play shoot 'em up Dino Crisis.
So you want Resident Evil Revelations 3 or whatever, but it's a Leon, but then it has dinosaur stuff, but then it also teases Dino Crisis. Is that what I'm getting?
However they want to set it up. I'm sure they'll set it up way better than my brain. But I was just thinking the announcement of Resident Evil 3 Revelations, where you play as Leon in just a random offshoot event, and then at the end of it, he gets a call about some urgent dinosaur outbreak somewhere way far off, and it's just kind of like a tease within a trailer, if that makes any sense. Like a tease for a later Dino Crisis game. I don't know. My wheels were spinning while watching 65.
Well, Capcom, if you're listening, because we know you watch us, make sure to get on that right away. We'll talk about it and feed it to the millions.
give me a 2% cut of that 8 million copies sold, and I'll be a happy man.
I mean, that'll be a lot. Yeah. All right, this last one I'll just fly through because I'm sure everyone's tired of me yammering on. You're more exciting at talking about your games. The last one I jumped into towards the end of the week, I had a medical procedure and I was kind of down and out for a couple of days, so I wanted to dive into like a kind of spooky-ish, like psychological game, but not one that was like too much action. So I jumped into a point and click game called Fran Bow. Have you heard of a game called Fran Bow?
I looked it up, but I had never heard of it before you put it on my radar.
So I love quirky little gems. The stuff I used to do was all indie. And this was originally like a PC point and click by a developer called Kill Monday Games. It's very much a intense psychological horror point and click, but with some layers of fantasy, and like you're basically starring as this girl Fran Bow. I won't spoil anything, but you play as this young girl Fran Bow who's in an institution because things went bad in her life. That's all I'll say. And she now is trying to like understand why there's these like dark entities and these demons after her and the people in the institution and what happened to her family. And it's very much like a dark, spooky, psychological, sort of like an Alice in Wonderland, like a dark Alice, like American McGee's Alice, that type of experience, but a point and click game. I don't really generally care for point and clicks. I'm not freaking smart enough to like know what to do. I've been having to use a walkthrough just to solve this game, but oh man, you would freaking adore it just because of the whole like psychological horror aspects. And you can like take these pills to like change the world state, and it like makes it from like a horror world state to like the regular hospital institution state, and like just swapping back and forth between that for the puzzles. It's just cool to see like the swap in ambiance essentially. It's been around forever. It's just now on consoles more recently. So yeah, that's what I got.
So what is it, like immediate transition similar to Layers of Fear, or how do they actually transition the world shots? That seems so tough for an indie team to pull that off in terms of the visuals. How does that work?
I mean, so it's essentially like, so say you're like walking around or exploring this little hospital room, you like take these pills, and then all of a sudden it like just flashes, and then the screen basically is the same room, but it's all covered in like horror iconography and creepy things. And it's actually really impressive for, as you said, a small indie game from like, I think like almost a decade ago at this point. It's really cool, but it's a point and click. I don't remember if I've ever asked, do you care for point and clicks, or is that not your jam at all?
Yeah, I'm really not like, I kind of make a joke about being anti turn-based, but like, I'm really not anti anything in terms of genre. Like, Norco is one of my favorite games of last year. That was a point and click adventure, kind of, it was straight up point and click, and I love it. So if you can hook me with a good narrative, like that sounds like a really interesting narrative, especially if that kind of seems, I don't know, having some commentary about maybe being overly medicated and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if that's the direction they go in, or I don't know if they're saying, hey, she needs her Medicaid. Like, I don't really know, but even the idea of touching at a kind of touchy subject there for a lot of people, that it definitely has me interested for them even trying to go there, if they do.
It's essentially a horror point and click. And it's funny that you mentioned like the drug thing, because there's a splash screen that comes up early on, like right when you start the game, like before the title page, that basically outlines all of the very heavy, and I'm not going to name them obviously, but all of the heavy subject material. So it's not a light game. It's very intensive. But did you ever play Alice Madness Returns?
Yeah, that's a absolute gem.
So it's basically a point and click version of that.
Nice.
That would be the best way to sum it up. But yeah. So
I have a question for you. This is something
I don't want to answer it. Go away.
You might not, because this is something that's been, I don't want to be, Mr. Anti-sensitivity or whatever, but like, okay, I kind of am getting annoyed with the trigger warnings at the beginning of games. I wish they had it in the menu where I could go and select it to see, if there's anything that might, be too much for me or whatever. But when they pop it up at the beginning of a game and it's like there's themes of suicide, it's like, cool. So a character's going to kill themselves. That totally, as does, ooh, sorry, I'll timestamp it here.
Wait, what?
They do that on As Dusk Falls. It says there's themes of suicide at the beginning, and it's like that's one of the biggest moments of the entire game. So when it happened, it was still shocking, but it was like, damn, man, I wish I wouldn't have even thought that was going to take place, because it is kind of abrupt in how it happens, and it's like, golly, come on, man. I mean, you can make decisions and prevent things, so it's cool there, but like, I don't know. It's I don't mean to sound like an old man, but it's like I wish I could just go and see it for myself and go into a menu and be able to avoid it if I want to avoid it. Do you relate to that at all?
No, I think that's a really fair, and obviously, again, you're right. This is all tough stuff. We're not gonna dwell on the heavy part of it, but I think in terms of games, I have thought that before, because you're right. You think of like old, whatever, like really horrific games, right? Like on PS2 or PS1 or whatever, like you didn't really see that stuff. And you're right. There is like this level of I feel like pretty much every psychological horror game now has, you're right, that warning, which I fully get, because it's certainly an issue. But at the same time, you're right. Like it spoils a lot of what possibly is going to come up, right? Just as you said. And at the same time, and again, this isn't saying there shouldn't be those, because they are valuable, having those screens. I very much get that. I mean, we both suffer from a lot of mental anxiety and depression stuff, right? So like we understand that. But at the same time, you're right. Like if you're looking at the screenshots and a trailer of a game, we'll say like in this case, or Alice Madness Returns or whatever, you already kind of know it's going to be not a pleasant game. So like if you're going into it and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect there to be anything terrifying and awful and stuff, I won't say it was on you, but like you could tell from the screenshots and trailer if sort of what it's going to be like, right?
Yeah, and it's like, just put it in the menu, put it in the menu, and then people that want to make sure it's, because like I understand there's some phobias like arachnophobia, things like that, like with Grounded, where they change the spiders for. I understand like people have their different phobias, and they're different more sensitive to this and that. Like I just think it'd be cool to have it in like an accessibility menu, or just like a straight up trigger warning option where you can see all the possible trigger warning scenarios that may take place in the game. I don't know. I don't like it spoiling it for everybody who, it kind of wants to go into it blind.
That's smart. I never thought about it much until you brought it up. And I think that is smart. Even just having a screen pop up and say, this game has some potential trigger warnings, check out the options menu or whatever. Like even that would at least let people know if they want to know ahead of time. So that's smart. That's actually an interesting topic, because you could dive into like all aspects of it. But again, we're just talking about games. We're not experts in that, obviously, other than our own mental health. But
no, you're right. That's a perfect way to do it. To say, hey, check out the menu. That's actually the best way, I think. Have it at the beginning screen. Check out the trigger warning potential possibilities in the game if you want to. I think that's smart.
Yeah. Well, that's the games I was playing. Again, I'm tired of yammering on. I hate listening to myself go yammer on about all the games. So let's talk about what you've been playing, which I want to hear more about. Is it a spoiler to say more Final Fantasy 16?
Man,
tell us about everything.
So I finished it. Where to go with this? I don't want to jump into this like head first negative, because that's not what I feel. I don't feel like because, okay, last week I was probably about 15 hours in. I finished the final 25 hours this week. And I think that there is probably 7 hours of this game that could have been removed, and it would have made for a better overall experience. At the beginning, it was so straight up in your face, hardcore storytelling, nonstop, high stakes, emotional moments. Like it was just so strong. And then they got into the thing where I think the side questing in general in this game is pretty bad. I just completely quit doing the side quests. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And then right when I quit doing it, they introduced a lot of that like forced mandatory side content, fetch questy bullshit into the main story. And I'm like, dude, I don't care about trying to go and find this little lost past. I don't care about going and trying to just this Monday. I don't care where, this guy has a relationship with a prostitute and they're off missing somewhere. It's like, if it doesn't pertain to the main story, like I really don't care that much. And some of that stuff was there are some okay moments within that, but like, okay, I'm going in and helping you, going walking through a library and trying to find tidbits to help you build this boat. And it's like, get me to the good stuff, man. I care about Clive. I care about his brother. I care about Sid. I care about these characters that you've been building up. And the production quality dips so significantly when they get into those, like, oh, okay, here, go off and do these minor fetch quests. Like, it feels like side content that was just forced in your face for the main narrative. And it really, really threw off the pacing of the game. Like, it really hurt the pacing of the game in that whatever third act. But I will say how complex this narrative is and how they were able to make it so cohesive and easy to understand. Like, it's base points that anybody can keep, it's a 35-hour plus game, and you stay understanding all of the key moments, all of the key characters. Like, you never lose sight of any of that. But then there's like layers within that where you can, you can dig as deep as you want to, or get the surface level experience. And it's like either scenario gives you a great outcome for the narrative. The narrative is like legit 9.5 out of 10. It's one of the best narratives of this generation, no doubt. Maybe I don't have it off the top of my head. Plague Tale Requiem is my favorite narrative of the generation, but this is up there.
Wow. You just dropped that like it was nothing. Okay.
Yeah. That might be my favorite video game story ever. I think that was unbelievable to me. Did you play wild
it? Well, wait, I just like that you dropped that out of nowhere. Like, it's a huge claim to make of your favorite narrative ever. I just like that you just, cherry picked and dropped that in there. That was a big one to drop.
Well, I think the first game, Plague Tale Innocence, is like one of the best video game narratives ever. And then how invested I was in, Hugo and Amicia, and then to see where they took that next story, it's like, whoa. So it had a lot to do with the first game as well, and just the build up effect there. But yeah, okay. That would be my favorite all-time narrative. But yeah, man, you have anything you want to add real quick?
Well, I just want to ask, because you're right. Like, it is interesting, your energy from last week's episode about when you were 15, 20 hours, whatever it was, to now, like, it's markedly different. Not that you're saying it sounds like you love the narrative still, but your energy level of how excited you were for it clearly changed. So is it because of all that side quest shenanigans and like kind of missing the point of what the whole first part of the game's trajectory was? Is it more of that, or is it, actually, let me ask this in a different way. Oh, no, go ahead. Go off that.
Well, yeah, that is it. That is the big thing to me, was the pacing drop off of I want Sid, I want Clive, I want Joshua, I want, I want these main characters to be the focus of what I'm engaging with. And when I'm not engaging with them, if you want to introduce new characters and make them feel important, give them cool cinematics in the same way that you do the other characters. If you're not, it's on you to produce cool story content in a way that's engaging and captivating and feels important. And if it doesn't feel important, then side quest. Throw it to a side quest, because I want the good stuff. Get me to the good stuff. That's, how I am with that stuff, man. When I feel like I'm starting to repeat things and it throws me off. I will say, those icon boss fights, I came in last week talking them up, praising them left and right. I didn't know anything. I did not know anything about what we were going to get later on in that game. The icon boss fights go from running at 100 to running at 1,000 to running like, wow. It's crazy the amount of depth and complex mechanics that are interwoven into this thing that could just very well be press a couple buttons and see cool particle effects and cool explosions and these high octane big boss battles, but they go so much further to make it to make it rewarding to actually play. And that's another thing. The combat throughout the entire game increasingly got better. The story stayed at about, a perfect clip until those little dips where the pacing issues, but the main focus for the main characters stayed really solid. It was some really serious pacing issues.
So I appreciate the honesty with this, because I think people want to sometimes know, especially because we can be so swept up and enamored by the first, half or quarter, third of a game, right? Then sometimes a game can shift in a lot of ways. In this case, it sounds like, well, let me ask you. So the first question I have is, did it feel like they were gatekeeping a lot of either the best content or further content because of these side quests? Or is it because they wrapped a lot of the major content into a side quest?
Well, no, it was a weird thing. It was more that they forced you to do like 7 or 8 main quests that felt like side quests that just didn't feel like it had any real connective tissue to the narrative. Like, cool, we're building this boat. The boat will come into play in the narrative, but it's like, you could have showed me a cutscene of you guys building the boat. I don't have to actually act as Clive and going around and finding things in the library and, going off and killing these 4 enemies so I can take their hide and give it to Mid so that she can concoct this perfect boat. Like, cutscene it. Get me out of that. Get me out of it. Cutscene it, 5 minutes, boom. Not an hour.
No, this is fascinating to hear this, because like, again, it to me, it sounds like a huge, as you already said, dip in the overall experience that was pretty maybe on the up and up. Was there any point when you were starting to feel like some of the tedium because of the way they handled these main quests as side quests? Does it feel like there was any party that was like, I don't think I'm going to finish it? Did you ever have that thought? Like, I might dip out because of this. Okay.
Oh, no. That main narrative is something else, man. It gets its hooks in you. And like, I was so invested in seeing the conclusion of this story. That's the thing that bums me out so much, is what I really wanted from the game was just to be around that main cast or other important feeling characters like that. And whenever it made me, like, sounds so lame, but whenever it like separated me from that, I was like, dude, give me that back. Like, those are cool characters. I want to be around that. I want to see more of this journey. But I never thought about putting it down, because I was like, I unless it got to a point where I was doing 15 hours of this side content or this main content that felt like side questing, fetch questing. If it got to that point, I would have, but it was about 5 to 7 hours of what felt like filler content to me, which is significant. And it's all in like this third act. It's almost all in one go, where you just clean up 5 to 7 hours of bullshit and then get right back to the good stuff. It's a weird drop off. But last week I came in, I was probably like what would you say? I was probably like an 8.5 to 9.3 on my out of 10 scale. And
you were way over 9. Yeah, I would say, based on the way you were talking about all aspects of it, you were way over a 9 for sure.
You think so?
I mean, at least the way you described your excitement level around it, but there obviously was some, of course, brand new recency bias, but you seemed over a 9 to me for sure.
So let's say a 9.3, 9.4 on it last week. This week, I would say I would be around like a 8.4. So wherever that like middles off at. I don't think the overall experience is an 8.4, but I would, if I was putting a out of 10 score, and I know people hate scores. I kind of like scores. I think they're fun.
I love scores.
Yeah, I think they're
everyone says they hate scores, but the amount of people that I know that skip through written articles just to get to the score and pros and cons is very high, which means people do like scores. They just say they don't. So that's bull crap.
That's me. I skip straight to the score.
Me too. Don't worry. Sorry for all you people that do the writing. We know it takes a lot of work, but sometimes you just want to sum up. So, okay. All right.
I'd be like an 8.7 on it. 8.6, 8.7.
which is still freaking phenomenal. Like that's not, people are going to be like, oh, that's like a B level. That's still phenomenal, by the way. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, to be fair, like that's where God of War Ragnarok would be for me. That's where like a lot of this would be higher than God of War Ragnarok for sure. For sure. So whatever, I don't think I gave God of War Ragnarok a score. The scoring really doesn't matter, but this would be, I like this more than God of War Ragnarok. So that's significant. I don't like it as much as like Forbidden West. It's not up there. Plague Tale Requiem, Forbidden West. Those are in a tier to their self for this generation, but this is only a couple below that.
So what I gathered from, and again, this may be I'm incorrect, but from what I gathered last week, again, I mean, it's not like you only played an hour. You still played at least 15 hours, it sounds like, which is a big chunk. It sounds like this to you was maybe going to be a game of the year / maybe runner up, but now it sounds like it's not. Like you like it, obviously, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be a game of the year for you, correct?
No,
if you had to stay right now.
This won't be this isn't in my top 5 right now. This would be top 10 right now. For sure, top 10 easily. This would probably be like 7, 8 right now. Which we'll get into later with some of the mid-year awards. But yeah, this isn't it's not my game of the year. It's not in my top 5. Not right now. Or it's not, yeah, it won't be in my top 5 for sure.
Okay. So as a sum up to all this, the quick question, how many hours then did it take you to wrap up the experience, give or take? It doesn't have to be exact.
I don't know. On my PlayStation thing, I think it said like 38. But I like I said, I just completely cut off the side questing. I've heard some people say that later in the game they get really cool, but it got to a point where I was like, no, not if the main quests are starting to feel like side quests, then I'm just getting straight back to the meat and potatoes. So yeah, overall great experience, really, really, really good experience, and at times great to like mind-blowingly epic experience that is unrivaled by anything else I've ever experienced in my entire life, but some serious drops. It's a roller coaster.
This is what I love about talking with you about games, because it's very rare that I'll finish a game just because I get bored and my mind, or I just like want to play every game. This is why I love talking to you, because you're so good, generally speaking, from what I know of you, committing to finishing in a game in a generally quick amount of time. This isn't one that I was planning to buy, if at all, honestly. Like I like the demo. So to hear you go through the first week, you talking about it, now into the second week, I think you give a good overall snapshot of what the game's like. You know what I mean? And that I think is the best thing to do, because it's so easy to have the recency bias of like, oh, it's all just great. The side quest stuff, even though I didn't like it, it's still all just amazing. Yeah. And you still thought it's amazing, but like there's clearly some things that brought it down for you personally, which means it's probably gonna do the same for other people. That's going to bring certain aspects down, the side quest stuff. So
yeah. At first I was kind of stunned to see it scoring in the 8s, in the mid to high 8s. And now I can see where a lot of people find that is the range, because it does have a few dips there. But yeah, that's my Final Fantasy 16 experience, man.
Random side question about it. Do you think a spin-off or like a small $15 game that's just focused on icon battles would be a good experience, or would that just be too much too often?
Yeah.
Like, could that be a cool, like, oh, this is Final Fantasy 16 plus icon edition, and it's just like literally icon battles? Would that even be, don't spoil it. Well, I mean, you can spoil it if you want, but like, I'm not going to get to that point, but do you think that'd be cool? Or no, or would that just be too much?
It would be too much. Yeah. Cause it feels so earned whenever it does happen. It feels like so earned, and it would kind of be tough unless they just had no narrative with it at all, and it was like War of the Monsters style, just like battles. That could be fun, but I don't even really know how you could make much of a narrative around that.
Cool. I was just curious. Well, thanks for sharing with all of us, myself and everyone. I think that was a great overview, and it makes me excited because I tend to lean towards like a lot of the smaller random games that no one hears of, and you like that stuff too, obviously, but you tend to really get through the big AAA things more than I would. So it's really good to hear this stuff, because oftentimes you'll either save me $70 or make me spend $70 so, for better or worse in these things.
Yeah, it's a game that it earns your 70. I'll say that. Like there's a real budget behind this thing, but I'm not saying everybody makes their own financial decision on what they choose to buy, what they choose not to buy. I'm not trying to influence anyone there. Just giving you kind of my up and down perspective on Final Fantasy 16. But Jeffrey,
cool.
We are now heading in to award season.
Oh my gosh.
It is the time. I was thinking of a name. Like I was like, okay, we could maybe call it the Ramblies, the unnecessary awards.
That sounds like something I should go to the doctor about. Doctor, I got the Ramblies. Help me with my Ramblies. Not so. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm going to go ask about that next time I go for a checkup. My friend told me I got the Ramblies.
But I really, I was thinking, because obviously I want to do end of the year content with awards and stuff like that. But I was like, I think a good mid-year kind of gut check would be fun, to just look over like what's the year been like so far, give a couple categories. So the base setup here is that Jeffrey and I are going to go through, I think we have like 10 or so categories here. And we're going to give you a winner and a runner up for every category and just talk
most
about
categories.
Yeah, for most categories. And just kind of talk about some of the best in gaming and some non-gaming categories for you here today. That sound about good, Jeffrey?
I'm excited for this. I think it's when behind the scenes, Brandon presented this idea. I should say Brandon's like the best idea guy. You guys already know that, but he comes up with these ideas that get me so pumped up to talk about things that are mostly gaming, but then sometimes not gaming, which again, I think is fun. A lot of times the podcasts I listen to and watch, you can tell me if this is true for you. I like getting to know the hosts and the people on the show as well, apart from just games from time to time. Yeah. So hopefully this will interject a little bit of that extra stuff. So, a tiny bit extra about us and our ramblies. So,
well, yeah. And that's a good point, Jeffrey, and that's I think a big benefit to having you on the show is like when I'm doing it by myself, I have no idea how to do that. Like, I don't know how to communicate with an audience when it's just myself and talk about, personal shit. I don't know how to and I'm not a big sharer, oversharer anyway, but I don't really know how to, there's like that person side that I think is hard to come across naturally if it's just one person doing it, unless it's totally scripted into how you're setting it up. But yeah, it's a lot easier with just like this natural communication.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So it'll be fun. Yeah. So don't expect us to get into deep personal things, but a little extra way to just talk about some fun games and some fun experiences of this year so far for the mid-year, and then also just some random things. So why don't you kick us off? Because I know we have a lot of categories. You had most of them. I kind of threw in a couple extra random ones, but why don't you kick us off with where you want to start with these? Should we just call them the Ramblies?
You want to call them the Ramblies?
I'm going to feel uncomfortable every time, but I think we should. I got the Ramblies, doctor. Help me.
Welcome to the 2023 Ramblies and our first category nominate. What the hell do they call? What do those presenters do there? And the first category.
You just derailed the whole thing there. No more Ramblies, everyone. Just kidding. We're not doing it. We're going to do a third of a quarter year or 3/4 of the year through instead. Keep going, man. You're doing a great job. That was very sarcastic.
You want to start off with best non-gaming entertainment and run into some of the non-gaming content we consumed for 2023 and then go through some of the gaming stuff?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think this is stuff that we don't even really know about each other, to be honest. So I think this will be interesting. So yeah, we can start out with that. Let's start with best. Okay. Well, actually, no, you start us out because this was your category and I don't know if I even did it right. So go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. Us off. So the setup here, I'll shout out my runner up first off here for best non-gaming entertainment that I consumed in 2023. My runner up is going to be The Last of Us season 1, from the HBO television show. The game I still think is the best way to experience it, yada yada yada. But this is a damn good television show. I'm not a over consumer of TV. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't really, I just play too many dadgum video games. It's hard to find that time, but I thought that this was a really good retelling of that story and also adding in some moments that I didn't expect. It was enough there that was new that kept me excited and interested to come back to see little adjustments and little, things that they would shake up. So just a great show. The emotional moments are still there and it hits all the best beats in a really great way. Probably the best video game adaptation to this point. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed The Last of Us season 1 on HBO.
Did you I didn't watch it, so I should say, but did you binge it? Did they release it all at once or was it just one each week? I don't know how they did this one.
Yeah, they did it. They did it weekly, if I'm not mistaken. It was either
Okay.
weekly or bi-weekly. Yeah, but so yeah, I just watched it, whenever I watched it week by week, whenever they dropped. I think it was weekly, every Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And yeah, I would just watch it when they dropped them, and I
Nice.
enjoyed the whole series. There really wasn't many episodes that I didn't like at all. I did think that Joel and Ellie's relationship was captured much better in the game, but that'd be my
Mhm.
only little nitpick.
Okay. I don't have anything good to add because I haven't watched it, but that's cool. So that was your runner up for best non-gaming stuff then, right?
Yeah, best non-gaming piece of entertainment of 2023. That's my runner-up.
I completely butchered this because I instead of just doing like an overall, I did every subcategory. So I did like best album, best movie, best book. So I completely did like runners up for all these, but I'll sum it down. It's fine. I should say, because we talked about this before, don't expect us to talk about any books, right?
I'm the most non-reading. I try to do audiobooks, man, but like, golly, people can be like, hey, that's why you're so stupid. You need to learn your vote. I'm a non-reading ass dude, man. I can't help it.
Yeah, I have no books to add to this. So just know we're not bringing you any savvy book stuff to this. Since I butchered the category of how I'm doing it, I'm gonna quickly figure this out. So my runner up is gonna be, this is gonna sound so cliche, but it's the Super Mario Brothers movie. I had no, I'll be honest, like I'm a huge Mario guy. My wife and I both love that stuff, but I really wasn't interested in the movie. Like I wasn't someone that ran out to see it. I was like, when it comes to digital, I'll rent it or whatever. And it was just such a fun movie, honestly. Like as someone that's grown up playing Mario games, I just love the little references. And each time there was like a little reference, we like looked at each other. My wife and I were like, "Oh, that was cute. That was funny. That was hilarious." And it was just such a ride. It was fun. It was lighthearted. It made us laugh. Made us nostalgia, made us tear up because of like the memories we have of old Mario games and the way Nintendo captured that in movie form. I had zero expectations and it just blew us away with how much fun it was. So yeah, that's gaming related, but the Super Mario Brothers movie was just a treat. So that's my runner up.
Yeah, I don't know why you would say that that's cliche or anything like it. It's a beloved film by the fans of the fans of Mario seem to really, really, really enjoy that, and
Yeah.
it's incredibly well made. Just the animation and all, it looks absolutely amazing. So I don't think there's any shame in that pick at all, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't have shame in it. It's just I feel like I want it to be something that's not even gaming related. But I was like, when I was thinking about this, I was like, that was just fun. Like that brought me happiness. So I was like, I should definitely talk about that for a second.
Funny. Both of our runner-ups are, best non-gaming entertainment. While they're not video games, they are kind of video game adjacent. So that's funny there. But my winner,
Yeah.
for non-gaming entertainment is gonna go to Sleep Token's new album. I believe it's called "Take Me Back to Eden." This is I've really been looking for a good new rock metal album for a while. There's really been nothing for a while that's captured me like this. I think that for one, it's so versatile. It sounds so different from really anything else in the rock and metal world that I've heard in a while. It has this R&B fusion with jazz, with pop, with metal. There's tracks on this album, The Summoning, Chokehold, Aqua Regia, Granite. There's tracks on this record that are like some of my favorite individual songs of the last 5-10 years, man. It's a great album. I really do think The Summoning and Chokehold are like maybe in my top 25 favorite songs ever. I can just listen to those on repeat, and great workout tunes, great vibe tunes, something you can listen to with your lady and y'all can both kind of vibe to the record. It's not like a lot of the hardcore or the metal or some of the harder rock. It's a little bit off-putting to people who aren't into the genre. This is so vibey, man. You can listen to it with people who aren't really into the genre at all. It's great.
That's a cool shout. I'm glad you went with music because again, it's nice that we're talking about something that's different. I'm not familiar with Sleep Token. I've heard of them. I'm not familiar with their music. So I couldn't say much, but I have seen them pop up on YouTube a lot because it's similar-ish to some music I listen to, but actually I want to ask, like, what is your go-to music genre just in general? Like, I know we have everyone has multiple tastes, but what's like your just general genre is such a generic word because there's so many subgenres, but what's like your go-to in general for music, if you had to say?
Probably, like, if I had to do a pie chart, I think it would be rap would probably be the leader.
Mhm.
Followed closely by hard rock from the 90s, or like industrial metal from the 90s. Those would be like those would be the two leaders by a pretty wide margin. But if I'm listening to like mainstream radio, I only listen to country.
That's wild. That's so far off. I wouldn't have expected that. Okay.
But I just think mainstream rock radio kind of sucks. Mainstream rap radio kind of sucks, at least in my area, like the FM radio stations. But I think the country, like I think mainstream like pop country kind of sounds cool in my opinion. Shout out to got a fast car. Way out of here.
It sounds like that. I'll never guess it because that was awful singing. How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what that was.
I think it's Luke Combs, and he remade a song by a lady named Tracy Chapman. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful country song. Beautiful, beautiful country song that was remade. Also, In the Orange is one I heard on the radio recently. I don't know if that's a 2023 song or whatever, but I don't know if either of these are 2023 songs. But In the Orange, it's Zach Bryan, I think. Zach Bryan. Beautiful country song. So those are two kind of country shout outs there.
I need to tell you something. This is confession time. Our friendship might be rockier from here on out. I loathe country music. I love you as a friend, man, but like the one type of music, I'm like, I will just lose my mind, and I can't stand. And I just feel like I should be honest with you right up front. I'm happy for you, I am, but I despise country music with a passion. I just want you to know that because I feel like we should be honest with each other. But I'm happy for you, but inside I'm very sad.
I don't blame you. There's a lot of it that really sucks. Like I can't do the red Solo Cup, back pickup truck. Like I can't really do.
No, stop. You're trying to no, dude. Just own it, man. Just own it, bro.
I will own, and I really do believe this. I think mainstream country is better, at least in my area. The radio stuff that's played, I think mainstream country is better than the mainstream rap and the mainstream rock that is played in my area. But anytime. No offense to Luke Bryan or Florida Georgia Line, if they come on, I'm hitting the channel. There's so many super talented female country artists that like newer country artists. I don't know their names. Like I said, I just kind of tune in through the radio, but I hear all the time like new unique sounds in country, and when I turn it to my radio station for rock, it's like 800th Metallica song, 800th Stone Temple Pilot song. And it's not, I love those songs, but it's like, I'm hearing nothing new at all.
Okay. Listen, I'm glad you're owning it. We have to be honest with each other here, man. So, okay. So that was a deep dive into your musical taste for a little bit. Well, it's interesting that you went that way because I also went this way, not country, but I went the way of music. So my overall best non-gaming, entertainment is going to be a band called Currents. I believe they're based out of Connecticut, and their album called The Death We Seek. So this is I guess they're metalcore. I'm huge into metalcore, specifically death metal. I love death metal. You wouldn't think that from my vibe and persona, but I adore death metal music. The heavier, the better. Metalcore, post-hardcore, all that stuff. The heavier, the better. I don't really like a lot of clean singing. I prefer just the heavy vocals, the screams, the growls, all that in my music. So Currents is one of these bands that perfectly, in my opinion, blends both. Their main singer knows how to perfectly blend clean singing and the scream vocals. And this album, as someone that deals with really heavy mental health issues, they tackle some very serious matters, but they handle with so much emotion and aplomb that every time I listen to it, it always feels fresh. It feels new. And I'm like, this gets me through some of the hardest moments of my life when I'm like, holy crap, I just need to listen to something. This will get me through it. So Currents, The Death We Seek, they're a small metalcore band, but not small. They're smallish metalcore band, but holy cow, this album is phenomenal.
Yeah, I'll have to write that down, man. I'd never heard of that until you shouted it out there. So it's got some heavy themes going on with it. It's
a lot of heavy. It's just I mean, most death metal and metalcore is, but it deals with some heavy themes. But it resonates with a lot of us that deal with painful things every day, as a lot of us do. So anyway, that's my non-gaming stuff. So it's funny we both chose music, which I think is interesting. So
Yeah, that's nice. And I mean, Sleep Token kind of does go into those harder. I'm not a huge metal guy, but it kind of goes into the screamy vocals and stuff like that at times too. So might be something. We might have some crossover appeal there for our two winners, two new albums of 2023. But
Okay,
you want to
well,
head
let's
into?
move. Let's move to a gaming one now.
Yeah, you want to hit into most underrated?
Yeah, let's go into that. So why don't you kick us off? I'm just going to say up front, I don't have a runner up. I couldn't think of a runner up. So why don't you kick us off with your? If you want to do both, you can. I don't have a runner up. I couldn't think of one, so I only have one choice.
I'm gonna hit my runner up. You do your winner, then I'll follow up with my winner.
Okay.
My runner up is gonna go to Scars Above. So I have heard very little on this game. Almost nobody talking about it. It seems to have not done all that well. It's sitting at a 64 on Metacritic. I don't think it's. Here's the thing that's hard about underrated is we're 6 months into the year, and there's a couple games that I think by the end of the year I will feel are more underrated than this because 2023 is just so stacked. But I think right now, a game that came out early in the year that I just don't think is getting enough love, it's got to be Scars Above, a sci-fi third-person shooter, very inspired by Returnal. It has a gripping narrative, especially the beginning and the end. Some real heavy themes of like I'll just say there's this robot style character, and that arc you wouldn't expect it to make you as emotional as it gets you. And for it to be at a 64, I would at least put this, 10 or so points higher. I think it's a pretty damn solid game. So that's going to be my runner up. And
It's a cool. No, go ahead.
once again, I didn't want to pick something that came out just like last month because I don't really know how underrated it is because we can't really look back in retrospect to see yet. That'll be more for the end of the year.
It's cool that you're shouting this game out because I remember it, and I'm probably part of the problem. I remember it coming out and seeing it on the Xbox store and being like, this looks, I'm not a huge sci-fi guy, but I remember seeing it, I'm like, this looks pretty cool, but I didn't, being it's not generally my genre, I didn't pick it up. So to hear you talk about it in this light is pretty cool. What would you, if you had to compare it, I know comparisons can be reductive, but I'm just trying to think of for me, knowing a similar game sometimes helps me to know if I'll like it. If you had to compare this to another sort of experience, is there anything that's similar enough that maybe is, I don't want to say mainstream, but a little more mainstream that I would know of?
Yeah, Returnal is the easiest one. It's a slower, more methodical Returnal, but it's not roguelite. It has some Souls elements, which are the worst parts of the game, but it doesn't overdo it. It's just the little stupid bonfire things, but it's essentially just a cheap way to do a checkpoint system. And it's pretty simple, but there's cool power setups in here. You can kind of like you can throw this item that sends like it emits this sound that will attract the big beast to go and follow it, and you can like throw it over onto the ice, and then you shoot the ice while they're standing on it, and then they're just engulfed they're stuck in the ice, and you go and get some cheap damage points. Like it has a bunch of fun powers and stuff. It has Metroidvania elements going on. It's kind of just like a straight up third person Tomb Raider-esque shooter, but with a sci-fi and a kind of Metroidvania vibe at times. It's a really cool title.
That's a good shout. Now that I know more about it, I might have to try it when I see it on sale, but okay. All right. From Scars Above, I don't have a runner up. I racked my brain to try to think of one, but there's just one game coming to mind. This might be a spoiler, might be a theme throughout some of this stuff, but I'm going to preface by saying my most underrated game isn't underrated in the sense of reviews. It reviewed very well. People love it that played it. It's underrated in the sense that it is absolutely not getting the spotlight it deserves because of how wonderfully it came out. And that's Hogwarts Legacy. You might be saying, okay, that's not underrated. Yeah, it's not. It's gotten great review score. It's selling like freaking ridiculous. It's doing so well in the sales charts. People adore it. And I adore it. It's easily one of my favorite games of all time. I think one of the best games, period, just the way it was made. The reason I think it's underrated is because obviously I'm not going to get into it, but the controversy stuff just is very disrespectful and unfortunate to the team that made this game, who poured their love into it and have nothing to do with any of the controversy. And at the end of the day, any studio, any publisher, anything has a controversy. So just stop that. That's really obnoxious. Oh, like the game for what it is, and the people that actually spent their time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears to make it. Now, if we're looking at it on that front, the game is not being talked about enough in the discourse. It released in a near perfect state. I say near perfect because almost every game, even some of the juggernauts of this year, released in poor states, or at least not launched that way. I bought this game on PS5 and spent the extra $10 or whatever to do where you can play it 3 days early. Even playing it before the actual release, flawless. No bugs, no technical issues. I didn't run into any problems. Again, I can't speak for everyone's experience, but the game is just so well lived in. There's so much detail in every aspect of every part of the world. If you're a Potter fan, awesome. You're going to feel it even more like I am. I'm a huge Potter fan. I mean, I have the Hogwarts Legacy art book and everything right there. It's that beautiful of a game to me. It just bothers me so much that even the bigger channels don't talk about it. It's getting overlooked, and it didn't release with microtransactions. WB didn't faff about with DLC and microtransactions. They released a game. It's a single player game. It's very good. It's long and polished and does so well. And it just really makes me upset because it's just not being talked about when it released so lovely in this era where games don't. And they didn't faff around with a bunch of crap. And so much so that right before we started recording, it's on sale on Xbox. I bought it digitally a second time because I want to support the games that are releasing in near perfect states. I will sing the praises of that game forever. Yeah. So I know that was a pedestal and I apologize, but it's just because I'm really tired of the big channels that I watch just overlooking it, not talking about it for reasons that are absolutely ridiculous in terms of the game. So, yeah. I don't mean to be like spicy about it. I'm sorry, but it's so good. And that team deserves so much praise for the game they made. So,
well, Jeffrey, yeah, my most underrated game of 2023 is also Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah. It's nice. Crazy. It's crazy. Hey, listen, this is all I'm going to say. Diablo 4, where's the outrage? The culture within Activision Blizzard. I support any human being deciding to purchase something, not purchase something. I don't care about that at all. But man, this thing caught a lot of in the moment trendy outrage that seems so misplaced in terms of, once again, it went the wrong direction. This actual game, the actual product that was made, is incredible. And I've said this 100 times. It's impossible to be a moralistic consumer in the United States. I mean, just anything that's publicly traded, you're having investments likely from entities who are doing some horrific shit. So it's so tough to boil something down and say, okay, X thing is bad because of X. It's so tough. Regardless of all of that, the game is so high quality, and I know for a fact it's not going to be in the 6 nominations for Game of the Year at the end of the year. The big end of the year discussions for what is Game of the Year, most places aren't going to have it in their kind of final lists. It's one of the best open world games ever. I play all of them. And it was made with so much love, so much care. Like you said, I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I don't care about that at all. And it's still from the design ethos of being a intelligently crafted open world game with tons of variety for your power sets, tons of variety for side quests, a great main narrative, that castle and Hogsmeade, so many like explorable districts that feel so lovingly cared for. Like, yeah, this is crazy that this isn't being, talked about in the pantheon of like those all-time great open world games. And if not that, cool. Everyone has their preference. The fact that it's going to be snubbed at the end of the year across the board is really going to be unfortunate. And it's been a great year. 2023 has been a great year. I'll say that. And I will understand in some aspect there, but the lack of coverage for it really is disheartening in my opinion.
I'm glad that I knew you felt that way because we've talked about this personally before, but it's really cool to hear that. And you're getting two perspectives, a massive, massive Potter fan and someone that you just said doesn't care about the lore and the universe. Like that again shows even irrespective of those things, if it was just some random thing, some random fantasy thing, as you pointed to, when a game is when a game is when a game is well made, period, that should be praised. And it comes out well made, that should be praised, and doesn't faff about with all of the crap in the industry of like free to play microtransactions and DLC, blah, blah, blah. Straight up game. Stop arguing that those things aren't out there. They're out there. Just put that other stuff aside and appreciate the people that made them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool to hear that, man. I didn't know that was going to be yours. So I'm glad to hear that it was. That's awesome. So
yeah. And hey, look, and another thing that I think makes this really underrated. This is this studio's first big breakout hit, man. Like this, they made Disney Infinity and Cars and all these little tie-in games that are, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but like that's probably 10 times the budget for Hogwarts Legacy is probably 10 times the budget that was for the movie tie-in for Cars. So they could have absolutely whiffed on this and been like, hey, this team just wasn't talented enough to make a game like this. No, this was that big breakout for them, similar to how, Rockstar went from the top-down isometric games to Grand Theft Auto 3. This is that important. This is that big for them. And the sales indicate that. So it maybe not underrated in the sales aspect, but this is a huge hit for a team that could have very well missed the mark on this and doesn't have that pedigree up until this point. So shout out to them.
I love that, man. If there's anyone by chance from Avalanche watching this, which I doubt, but if there is, thank you for making an incredible thing. Keep doing you. Don't let the other stuff bother you. There's plenty of us that love what you've done. So, all right. Well, I'm glad we could do that. It felt really good because we're just being honest. So what should we move into? I don't know. Should we move into our best indie category?
Yeah.
Let's from big to a little bit smaller now. Should we move into that?
Yeah, let's hit best indie. Hit me with your runner up.
Okay, so my runner up, I struggled with this. In the indie games are my jam. This is where I play mostly indie games, so it's hard to narrow this down. If I'm completely honest, I've probably played 100 indies this year already. My runner up is going to be Shadows Over Loathing. I'm not going to spend time on it because I talked about it in a previous episode. But Shadows Over Loathing, it's a cool little like stick figure, hilarious turn-based turn-based RPG with like fun quests and goofy characters and great writing. And it looks like a Flash game, but it's so lovingly cared for by a team, and it's just stick figure and you're exploring cool locations and taking part in goofy little battles. And it's just really all about the humor in the story. It's just a fun little game. The sequel to West of Loathing, I think it's just Switch and PC, these games, but Shadows Over Loathing from just a month or two ago. Yeah. Really, really cool little indie game if you like little RPGs. So
I will say to my physical fans out there, PS5, I think Series X as well, it does have a physical release on the way for those consoles.
Does it?
I'll definitely be picking that up.
That's so awesome, man. That's so cool. They're doing a physical for that.
I think it's January though, so we got a little while to wait, but it is coming. I saw it on Best Buy. I always go PS5 and scroll through all the upcoming games, and it is on the way. So shout out to it.
All right, so that's mine. So what's your runner up for best indie so far?
So this was tough to me because I think I could have slotted either of these into the runner up category for most underrated, but like I said, they came out recently, so I don't want to do that just yet. Wait till the end of the year. They might be popping up for most underrated there. I'm going to do my runner up's going to go to Killer Frequency. I talked about it recently, a game where you're playing as a radio DJ in a small town, and the 911 operation line has been routed to the radio station so that the people of the town can be aware of the goings on and where the serial killer may be at by the people calling, running away from them, and you're helping them kind of solve puzzles to get there. It's just really cool setup. You're going through, taking vinyls out of the little basket and putting them onto the record player, playing it for the people, going off air, going back on air, hitting the buttons. Like it's so nostalgic, and it has it captures that feel of the 80s so well. Kind of nice slasher horror vibe. It's a really, really cool title, and one that I enjoyed so much, and it was just so simple, but it's still so enjoyable.
That's an awesome runner up. And when you talked about it, whenever in one of the last episodes, it was so cool to hear about it because I remember this dropping and it just passed me by. Even as an indie horror fan, this just passed me by. So that's what's so cool about this. There's going to be people that maybe just passed by these kind of games we're mentioning, and now we'll give them a second look, which is awesome. Do you think it's one of the, again, I don't mean this to be like so strong, but do you think it's one of the best indie horror games that you've played? Indie horror, not like, we're not talking about the big juggernauts, but like of all the different random first person ones and side scrolly ones, like, is this one of the better ish ones out there for sure? Cause there's a lot of them.
I think it probably would be somewhere in there. No doubt about that. Somewhere in there. I mean, there's, it's we've talked about this before. Indie is so hard to nail down because like Remothered, is that indie? If that is, that's right. Definitely very, very high up there. There's so much like it, but I would say it's probably somewhere in that top 10, top 15 I've ever played for sure.
Cool. I love it, man. When that goes on sale, I'm picking that one up. That was a cool shout before.
Definitely.
Okay, so my best indie for, and this was really hard because again, there's been so many. My best indie so far of 2023 is called Lil Gator Game. Have you heard of Lil Gator Game?
Yeah, it looks so cute.
I freaking adore this game. Did you ever hear or play A Short Hike?
I heard of it.
I've heard of it. I know you didn't play Switch much, but it started on Switch, I think.
Is it the game where are you on a bicycle?
No.
Okay.
It's like this you play as like a little bird and you explore a mountain. Does that ring a bell at all?
I've heard of the name. I've never played the game.
So anyway, I won't stick on that one. This game that came out this year is called Lil Gator Game. It very much pays homage and is kind of like a game that came out a few years ago called A Short Hike. A Short Hike was this charming little indie game, a couple hours long, maybe shorter. You just played as this quirky little bird who just simply had to get to the top of this mountain to make a phone call. That's the premise. You're just exploring this delightfully charming, colorful, wholesome world, making friends, getting a little bit more stamina to climb a little higher. And it's just low-key, relaxed, and great. So this year, a game came out called Little Gator Game, and it looks like just a kid's game that most people would pass by. Fortunately, this is one of those indies that got picked up on a lot of the big like sites and things like that because it was very similar to A Short Hike, which was very much an acclaimed game from like years gone by. Little Gator Game is just that. You play as this little gator who just wants to bond with his sister over like playtime and making cardboard cutouts and like attacking them with swords. And it's just so wholesome. And all you really do is explore like these few little islands. You make friends. You try to build up this fortress with your buddies out of cardboard so you can play and impress your sister so she'll want to come hang out with you. But it's just one of these games you play for a few hours, you explore where you want. It's very relaxed, but everything you do kind of feeds back into this loop of building up this little like cardboard cutout castle so you can hang out with your friends. It's the epitome of wholesomeness, but I couldn't put it down because it was just so fun. Like it was just pure unadulterated fun. Yeah. Exploring, whacking little like things with your little sword, different hats you can get. And it's the epitome of just cute and wholesome, but I can't sing the praises of that game enough. It's just pure single player fun in like charming, colorful form. So would this even be anything you would like or not so much?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Once again, I really hope people understand that like I'm not just a hardcore mature, like I like everything a lot. I really love just going off and checking out. If you have cool mechanics in your game, I will play it. I don't really care if what it is, what the setup is. If the mechanics are cool, I'm interested. And that definitely sounds like something I'd be interested in. Do you know if it's on Game Pass? I think I might have saw it on there. Is it not? Okay.
It's only, again, I'm not good at remembering consoles anymore. I think it's just Switch, period. It might also be on PC, but I think it's just Switch. So obviously that wouldn't really work for you anymore, but yeah, it'll probably come to other things eventually, like A Short Hike did, but it's a charming game for a few hours. It's good to play with your family or a loved one. It's just, if you want to put a smile on your face, that game will do it. So, okay. But what do you got, man? What's your best indie so far of 2023? I'm really intrigued because I don't know what it'll be.
Yeah, you if you think about it, you will. It's Dredge.
Okay. Oh, duh. Yeah.
It's Dredge for sure. Just golly, I got sucked into this little horror fishing game. I was going off and upgrading my boat nonstop, going off and dredging, going off and trying to catch the big sharks and stay out of the way of the big monsters in the deep sea when my boat wasn't necessarily meant to be out there. But I'm trying to adventure beyond my limits, beyond my wildest imagination. What was waiting for me out there was something absolutely terrifying, but still like not really, not scary in terms of jump scares or anything like that. Just a nice a really cool horror cozy atmospheric game that just hit on every level for me. The RPG elements worked for me, the horror worked for me. It's not a ton of narrative there, but what was there, meeting the different townspeople and building up relationships with them, it all just totally clicked for me with Dredge. So that's going to be my winner for best indie.
I mean, it's a solid pick. You know, people adored that game. What I mean, I'm curious though, what was it that really hooked you to it? Because there is a story, but it's pretty, I mean, it's somewhat minimal in the background.
Yeah.
I know you love a good story. What was it that specifically, I guess pun intended, hooked you to like, okay, I can't stop playing this game?
Well, it's
Because
funny.
the reason I say that is because I actually fell off it. I played a couple hours and it just didn't click, even though I liked the overarching theme. So what was it that really clicked for you?
It's funny, man. It's a lot like The Sims to me in a way. Like I used to love the Sims games growing up, especially 1 and 2. And like building up the house and all that, I felt a lot of similarities to with my boat, and that level of investment that I felt with my house. I felt similarly with my boat, where it's like, I want to get the best engine. I want to get the best, catch nets. I want to get the best fishing rods. I want to get like, I don't know. I was just really compelled by the simulation, the management aspects of the game. And then, it was just so addictive to try to the uh inventory management that I love so much from Resident Evil. It's very much on offer here, where you're trying to fill up you only have so many slots for the fish and the different items that you catch out in the world, and having to try to angle it all properly and get it back, and get it back in the right amount of time before the fish rot and stuff like that. Like I can't really explain why it clicked so much for me, but it did.
Awesome. I mean, it's a good shout, man. All right,
That's
where do we move? Where do we move from here? Where would you like to go next, my friend?
How about we just stay there with best horror? Head on into best horror from my two horror shout outs there for best indie. How about we go straight into best horror with your runner up?
Okay, so my runner up. This was tough. I didn't think it would be, but it would, only because I couldn't think of a lot of horror games for some reason I played. But then I guess there probably are. So my runner up is going to come with a big caveat. My runner up is Layers of Fear 2023. The caveat is that second half on the boat. I just couldn't be bothered. We talked about this. I won't dwell on it. We talked about it in our little review section a couple episodes ago, but that first part, the painter story, the first section, to me, some of the most immaculate horror in terms of like walking narrative, just that kind of stuff. The whole boat section, the part two, I couldn't be bothered. I was so nothing connected me. And this is how I felt when I first played Layers of Fear 2 many years ago. I was like, I can't do this. This isn't even fun to me. So that's my caveat. It is my runner up, but only that first chunk of the painter story. So that's what I got for my runner up. So,
Well, I look, man, we're in a crazy renaissance for horror right now. With we have Alan Wake 2 on the horizon, we have Alone in the Dark on the horizon, we have the Outlast trials, we have Silent Hill 2. I just gave my mention to Dredge and Killer Frequency, but we've also had Bramble the Mountain King, Dead Island 2, Amnesia, the Amnesia the Bunker game. Like you said, Layers of Fear. Like, it's just a total renaissance of the genre. But there are two kings that came out to play in 2023, and my runner-up has to be one of them. That's going to go to the Dead Space remake. It is just a great version of that 2008 game. It plays so incredibly well. The limb dismemberment, the gore, all the different weapons that you're swapping in and out of, the tight corridors, the jump scares, blasting an enemy in front of you, having one pop up behind you. It's all that was there in 2008, but redone and recontextualized in this beautiful, next gen version. It simply, as Todd Howard would say, it simply works.
that's a good way to put it.
That's my runner up, man.
All right, man. I like it. It's a good, and I have a fond, strong feeling we have the same pick for. So if my inclination is the correct, because I don't actually know what you have, because you see what I have, but I don't see what you have. I don't think my best horror game. I won't talk much about it. I'll let Brandon do the talking. It's going to be the Resident Evil 4 remake. I've bought Resident Evil 4 10 times, a dozen times at this point. I'm not the Resident Evil fan guy like you are, Brandon. Silent Hill is my jam, but this remake, It's so good.
Oh, good.
The memories I have when the 2005 one came out on GameCube, I had just started college my freshman year. I had moved into a dorm with just some random roommate. I went out and picked up RE4, started playing that on my little 20-inch CRT TV. So good. Playing it again now, this remade version, it's just excellent. It's so polished and good. I will say the end to me starts to drop off a lot, and I was starting just really wanting to get through it the last maybe 15-20%. I'll be honest, but that first 75 to 80% of that game to me is just fun. It's so good. The jump scares, the just ambiance, the writing is so goofy, and the weapons and the feel. I mean, again, I don't need to say anything else. I'll let you say it because you're the Resident Evil guy. So
Yeah.
that's yours, right?
Yeah.
That would have been sad if it wasn't now. And I'm like, built it up that you need to talk about it.
No, that's absolutely Mount. It's not even close. I love you, Dead Space. I really, really do. But Resident Evil 4, that's where it's at for me. I think that this is, I mean, just the introduction of the parry mechanic with the knife is so silly and so fun. It still being able to capture the cheese from 2005 with these like next gen, almost photorealistic visuals. Like, it's really cool that they were somehow able to bob and weave in and out of both of those lanes simultaneously. Like, it can be really simple to just make a game straight up tense survival horror, atmospheric, the most ultra realistic graphics, but they do that at times in RE4, but they also still have your roundhouse kicks and suplexes and the knife parrying a damn chainsaw.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
It's so ridiculous, but it's so fun. I played through it once, and I don't replay games at all. I do not like replaying games. I replayed through this immediately after I finished it. I'm not a trophy hunter. I'm not an achievement hunter. I just wanted to replay it again. I was like, this is unbelievably fun. I just want to do this over and over. And like having the new introduction of stealth mechanics, while maybe underutilized, the next replay I did, I went and tried that a lot more and saw, oh, you actually can use this, and it can be useful if you plan out and kind of see where the enemies are going and strategize that way. Like they added in so many cool features. The story updates. There's a lot more context for some of these characters.
Yeah.
Mendez and the twist ending that's very different from the original, that sets up for a lot of cool possibilities I'll just say that sets up for cool possibilities with separate ways and maybe continuing a character's arc beyond that, hopefully. So yeah, it was absolutely my favorite horror game of 2023.
Yeah, man. It's cool that I pretty was sure we were going to agree on that one. So it's not that we have to agree, but it's fun to have the same picks. Actually, we've had a couple of the same picks for our Hogwarts Legacy, and now we've shared a couple of the same ones. So
yeah, two of them.
All right. Well, from the best, should we move into our biggest disappointment so far, I guess?
That's a great segue. Yeah. Hit me with your runner up.
No, I was going to have you hit us with your runner up. All right, fine. I'm going to be really honest. I don't know how to position these because the main choice to me is going to be way too obvious. But I'm going to switch these. Okay. I'm going to switch these on the fly.
Hit it.
So my runner up is Redfall. Redfall was originally going to be my main biggest disappointment, but that's not that I can't talk about something that everyone else would talk about, but I just think, hang on a minute. Hang on, everyone. Hang on. There we go. All right. I just had to switch my little video thing. Redfall, again, I don't need to say much about. Everyone knew how excited a lot of people were for that from Arcane. I just adore vampire stuff. I adore that whole like Northwestern United States feel and the dreary weather and the foresty stuff and like the small fishing villages. And you pair that with dark, spooky vampires and the arcane magic from Dishonored and Prey and things like that. I didn't really like Deathloop, but I was pretty excited for Redfall, even with all of the pre-coverage, knowing that like it might not be that great. I was still day one going to be so excited to download that. And like everyone knows, within the first 20 minutes, I'm like, this is a disaster. I'm not going to play. This is just not fun. Like I'm literally just not having fun. So for me, I just uninstalled it. And I'm like, maybe one day if they do anything to it, I'll try it again. But my runner-up's Redfall. That was going to be my main pick, but I wanted to mix it up. So
yeah, I really thought about Redfall I really thought about Redfall as well. There's a couple that hit me. Redfall for sure, Forspoken for sure, but I got to go with my runner-up being Atomic Heart, because there was a part of me that was like, okay, Redfall looks like I was excited for it, but I was like, I don't know. Something doesn't necessarily feel right with this. Forspoken, obviously, there was a bunch of criticism about the writing and then the some of the performance and stuff like that before the game came out. But Atomic Heart was one that just looked really cool. And the BioShock inspiration, and it had a tone that was so right up my alley. And then I played this thing and it was just busted to hell and back on launch. It was busted to hell and back on launch, and not even bugs, that definitely hurt the experience by a significant percentage, but the game design is just not good, in my opinion. It gives you like these open world sections where you're just constantly being bombarded by enemies, and it's like, it feels like total filler for the sake of filler. They have some like cars and stuff you can get in and just kind of zip right back to the next main point, which is what I did every single time I could, because I found the open world sections to be so tedious and like nothing really interesting was taking place. And also it was open world, but like very restricted. Like they set up barriers where you couldn't go past certain. It was just like, why would you even include this and have it be so senselessly designed, in my opinion? But regardless of all that, I just think the total package of this game, with the bugs, the frustrating open world, the story kind of got cool towards the end. There was one really, really cool part towards the end, but overall I didn't really connect to the story. I found the main protagonist to be kind of annoying. Yeah, nothing about this game clicked with me. I thought the combat was okay at best. I did not like this game at all.
I didn't see that one coming, not in the sense that I didn't see it coming, just because I don't know anybody personally that's played it. I've heard about it on different channels, so it's interesting and good to hear you say it. I know it's on Game Pass. I'll be honest, I had zero interest in this, but it's a bummer to hear that, because I feel like this game was like such a long time in the making. Like I remember watching like Game Ranks videos from like 8 years ago or whatever that were like, this game is coming out one day and it looks so bonkers. So it's a shame to hear that didn't really live up to, I guess, the hype for a lot of people. Not even the hype, it just didn't live up to like what it even seemed like it was going to be, to an extent. On top of the bugs and issues. So that's a bummer, but it's good to hear that.
And it really just comes down to me more than anything. Like I was actually legit excited for this, and it totally missed the landing for me. So that's why it would be there ahead of Redfall and Forspoken for me personally.
Well, I'm going to go with something completely out of left field. I don't think anyone's going to even care or even be interested in this, but this is one that I personally was excited for, and that's Disney Speedstorm. So Disney Speedstorm is the free-to-play Disney-themed kart racer. For me, that was straight up my alley, although I'm not enjoying free-to-play stuff as much as I used to in the past. I love kart racing games. I mean, I'll buy... Oh, boy. I'm going to give a shameful thing right now.
Hit me.
This is worse than horse games. This is how much I adore kart racers, even the awful ones. I don't even know if I should admit it, on Nintendo Switch for like $20. I bought Hello Kitty's kart racer.
Oh man, we got to go back to therapy again this week. I thought
this is how much I enjoy kart racers. Is the point I'm trying to get across. You give me any kart racer, I guarantee you I will try it, even if it's the worst garbage, because I thought the Hello Kitties one was fun. It's not fun. I thought it was fun. So anyway, the point I want to make across is, A, probably don't listen to any of my advice, I guess. But secondly, Disney Speedstorm was this really kind of hyped big new. It's from Gameloft. Yeah, they're the big mobile people, but it just looked like a phenomenal kart racer with the Disney license. And to all its credit and purposes, the gameplay in Speedstorm is incredible. The tracks and the characters and the layouts and the feel of drifting and all that, the gameplay itself is magnificent, and it's so good. And the character license, they do a great job with that. But man, I fell off because of the progression. Holy crap. Do they gatekeep this content like crazy? And again, I know it's free to play. People are going to be like, yeah, what do you expect? This is brutal. at some point, like you play through these different, like each character, like we'll say like Mickey or Donald or Goofy, each has their own little like story things where you can kind of get a little bit more progression. They like immediately gatekeep it where the rubber banding kicks in and like you just literally cannot win. And the only way to win is to like upgrade your characters with stats and things like that, which, as you guessed it, means spending money. It wasn't a surprise that that was going to happen at some point, but it happened so early on. And I literally would just play race after race after race and could never win and could never progress because of this artificial gatekeeping. I haven't played their new season. I don't know if the new season has fixed any of that. Maybe it has, but I fell off that game. Even loving the gameplay so much, I fell off it because I just couldn't progress, just simply put. So it's out of left field. A lot of people aren't going to care. It's a free to play game, but very well made game. Very good use of the licenses. But man, that gatekeeping and progression is brutal. So
that's a bummer, man. Yeah. I love a good kart racer too, dude. It's a genre or a subgenre that I wish was a little bit. We see a couple indies here and there, but that's a genre that definitely needs to come back in a big way. Arcade racers. I really miss that subgenre for sure.
Agreed. We need more Burnout is what we need as well. So
true. Very, very true.
All right, man. What's yours? What's your biggest disappointment?
My biggest disappointment is one that released last week. And
the biggest disappointment is hanging out with me because I talked about Hello Kitty's kart racer.
Well, Jeffrey, as disappointed as I am in you for that, I am not even close to it's not even close to the disappointment I have for AEW Fight Forever, the new wrestling game from AEW. You know, Jeffrey, I'm a wrestling video game fanatic. I'm just a huge wrestling fan in general, or at least kind of a classic days wrestling fan, but holy smokes, dude. This just feels like a mobile game. It's a $60 mobile game. And here's because I've been playing nothing but Final Fantasy 16, right? So last night I was like, I'm gonna play AEW Fight Forever. I got the copy, I'm gonna play it and just make a little progress in the story. It's cool, no problem. So I play it for, I always play for about 2-3 hours. That's usually my session time. And then I knock out, go to sleep. I played it for about 2.5 hours, the story mode, and it was over.
Wait, what?
It's 2.5 hours. It's a 2.5 hour story mode.
Oh, no, what a disaster.
It's criminal. And you're like, oh, okay, well, it's probably got a bunch of other content, right? No, that's it. You have like some online play that you can do, but there's like in WWE 2K, and you can't compare necessarily. But here's a thing. If I'm not mistaken, this is Embracer funded. We're not talking about. I'm not comparing this to Wrestling Empire or Retromania, which those games more content than this. So, but and those are straight up indie games. This is funded by a billion-dollar company. So let's be really clear when we say we can't compare it to 2K and this and that. Sure, maybe not apples to apples, but there's some fruit in the basket that's similar. And in 2K, you have your universe mode, you have your career mode that's 15 hours, you have your what do they call it? Like the John Cena mode where you play the matches. I forget what they call it, but you play the matches as John Cena's opponents. It's a cool, history, kind of alternate history storyline thing going on there. Well, it's actually the similar. You're playing as people who beat John Cena. Regardless, there's so much different content going in there. There's community creations, online sharing. There's all these things. AEW Fight Forever has a story mode and exhibition matches and online play. And that's what you get. The story mode's 2.5 hours long is like the main feature for the game. 2.5 hours long. And so I was like, okay, today, while we're waiting to do this recording, I was like, because I created a character and did my season. I was like, let me go in and I'll pick someone from the AEW roster to see if it's any different. Right. It's the same setup. It's the same. I win the title in AEW Fight Forever at the beginning. And then the big revelation at the end is that I'm fighting to win the title again, even though I never lost it. It's so unbelievably bad, dude. It's so unbelievably bad.
Ugh.
Oh, it frustrates me so much, dude. It makes me so mad because WWE 2K games they need competition so badly because they can put out some stinkers, dude. They can put out some horrible wrestling games. 2K22 and 23 are a huge step in the right direction, but they need competition to really step up their game. This is not competition at all, not even close, and it sucks.
Oh, man. That's heartbreaking to hear that because I know how much you adore wrestling games. I mean, clearly, look at your shirt is a wrestling shirt, right?
Yeah.
I know how much you adore wrestling stuff. And when I saw this pop up on the shop, on my digital shop, and I'm looking around, I'm like, I'm not interested. Sure know someone who is.
Yeah.
And to hear that, man, while I have nothing of value to add to any of it because I don't know about it, holy cow, dude, this sounds like just a complete disaster.
It's a total disaster. It's a total disaster, dude. I know some people are like, hey, I like the gameplay. I think the gameplay's okay.
Okay.
But here's what I'll say. You got a building block. You got a decent foundation with the gameplay. Features, dude. Add features. Minimal decision making with the narrative. No real cutscenes going. Add features. Add features. That I'll get off my high horse there.
No, it sounds like this was the perfect time for this game to like sweep in, as you said, and be like, look, we can be the new like front runner in this genre or this subgenre of sports, right?
Yes.
But it sounds like they squandered that
Absolutely.
for the most part, correct?
I totally squandered it. Yeah, it's a huge missed opportunity for them to sweep in and get some of the kind of lapsed fans to get back on board. It's going to sell well because wrestling fans are so hungry for something other than the 2K formula. But I really think people are going to be pissed the hell off when they get in and see how vapid and hollow this thing is.
That sucks, man. It sucks to hear it, not as someone that likes wrestling games, but it just sucks to hear it because again, while there's been a lot of great experience this year, it still shows a broader picture across the games industry that a lot of games can just come out this way. People will spend their money, but then they just continue on the way they are. So I hope they learn, but man, I'm sorry, dude, that's a heartbreaking one to hear for sure. Cause I know you're passionate about that. So
it's all good, brother. It's all good. But let's head into something that we're hyped for. Let's talk about our favorite reveal from 2023. So we're finally capping off all of the showcases for the summer, the big showcases. At least we still have Gamescom in August, but the big showcases for this, June, July period are capped off. They're finished. Jeffrey, what's your runner up from anything that was shown off in 2023 so far?
So here's the problem is I don't know. This is just my bad. I don't always know if something was revealed when it was revealed. Some of these things, like a couple of the things I think they revealed this year, but they might've been last year. So don't I'm just doing the best I can. I have two runner ups. I'm not going to speak on them much. One of my runner ups is Disney Illusion Island. As a huge OG Disney fan, it's going to be a 2D platformer coming in the end of the July, a co-op platformer. Looks cute, looks charming, looks like those epic Mickey games from a while ago. That one I'm just immediately pumped for. And then the second runner up, which again, I won't say much, is just Alan Wake 2. I'm just that once I knew it was coming, but once I saw it, I'm like, okay, this year's going to be amazing. So those are my two quick runners ups. There we go.
So
what do you got?
Me? It's tough for me. For my runner up, I'm going to go that 45-minute Starfield Direct. And I know people would probably expect this to be my winner. And it's not like a spicy thing. Like I'm not I think that the first time I saw Starfield real gameplay, which would have been last year, I believe, I was already like, this is my most anticipated game for that year, which then got delayed into this year. But it was my most anticipated game. It's still my most anticipated game, no doubt about that. And it looks incredible. But I'll go ahead into my winner and then we'll kick back to your winner because
go ahead.
I got to say, I was blown away by Star Wars Outlaws. I thought that trailer was so good. And it really seems like Ubisoft is saying, hey, we have an opportunity to create a game inside of one of the biggest franchises in the world. Lord knows we need some cash. We're going to put our A team, our B team, our C team, our C plus team, our C minus team. We're putting everybody on this thing to make sure it comes out in a solid playable state with a ton of variety. Once again, space exploration, Grand Theft Auto style chases, third person shooting, decision making. Like it's so cool because we got Starfield that is going to be a bit wonky, a bit janky, but so free and with so much possibilities. Where Star Wars Outlaws, it's going to give you a lot of possibilities, but it's going to be a kind of more linear. It's going to be open world, but it's not going to be as free as Starfield, which is going to make it a tighter overall playing experience, I imagine.
Right.
And so it just kind of comes down to where your preference is. I love, the Uncharted's. You saw so much Uncharted in Star Wars Outlaws. I love the action adventure, the Tomb Raider elements that are going on in there. I like some of the Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I love that game. I love some of the Far Cry games. So it's like this is really, really hitting for me. I'm still more excited for Starfield, but in terms of something that was revealed this year, I would have to say Star Wars Outlaws, because I did not expect it to. For one, I expected to see it maybe pop up, but never expected to see that much gameplay in a release date for 2024. So that's going to be my winner.
Did they? I know there was always rumblings of like another Star Wars-ish game like this, but was this, for all intents and purposes, a big surprise in general?
Not for me, but for a lot of people, yeah. If you weren't
Okay.
they announced it a while ago, so we knew about it for a while. But a lot of people don't, they're not looking at blog posts,
Right.
so they're waiting until they see the big reveal.
I mean, this you're right. It looks. I'm not a Star Wars guy like at all, but it looks. You can clearly tell they're trying to really earn their position in this and take back what EA squandered a lot of times with some of the games they chose the last few years. You can tell they're really trying to be like, look, exactly like what you said. We can do a good one, and we can be the new leader in this. Because remember all the days of Star Wars games from days gone by when they were like all the time, and a lot of them were very good. So it's okay, that's a good one. I'm so worried about it because it's Ubisoft, and while Ubisoft does do some good stuff, it's still there's a lot of worry with it because I don't know.
Let me hit one last thing. I'm going to say one last thing, and then I'll send it back to you.
Absolutely not.
The team that makes the Division, extremely talented team they're the team working on this. They were forced into making the Division, which is an incredibly ambitious. Those online people don't give enough credit to those online, always online, mass multiplayer, live service style games. Those are hard to make. To see that team with that amount of talent that they were able to craft the Division with, to see them fully working on a single player experience, it's going to be interesting, man. I think they can nail this thing. I really do. So that's going to be my winner, man. What you got for yours?
Well, they're showing in gameplay, and showing gameplay usually is a sign of confidence to some extent. So, we'll go with that. My favorite reveal, which to me was a huge surprise. I had heard rumblings of this, but is Alone in the Dark. Alone in the Dark coming in October as of now. I don't really have any fond or really any memories at all of like the old Alone in the Dark games. Honestly, like I know like the original from the 90s is like a classic, but I don't have any like nostalgia for that stuff. But when I saw like the reveal trailer they did a few months back with like the actors and just like showing off the ambiance and the setting and the story, I don't know, something about it. I'm like, holy cow, I didn't expect this. This looks like a huge, exciting game for horror fans. I mean, they showed off gameplay. Some of the combat maybe looks a little wonky, but just in terms of like nailing the style and the tone of what I imagine the series is, it looks like they do. And what I also love about it is they also shadow dropped a prologue called Grace in the Dark, which is like literally a 10-minute prologue. But I think it's a prologue not meant to showcase the gameplay, but meant to showcase how this team can really handle the ambiance and the feel of what they're going for in Alone in the Dark. And I just love that like they coupled that together to be like, hey, if you're not sold on this, try this quick prologue to show that, hey, we know how to at least create somewhat of a cool world in a very short amount of time. And they nailed that. I played that prologue 3 or 4 times, and each time I'm like, okay, this makes me excited. So yeah, it's going to be Alone in the Dark, which I think as of now is coming in October.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm really excited for that one as well. I got that bad boy pre-ordered, ready to go too.
Hey.
I gotta quit my pre-orders, but I got that old physical ready. All right, so we are now heading into our 2023 game of the year, the final topic, the final category for our mid-year awards. You went last on your last one was Alone in the Dark, so I'll hit my runner up here. Jeffrey, I struggled with this one, man. I struggled. There's a lot of contenders right now in the works. We obviously talked about Dredge. That's one. Hogwarts Legacy we talked about. That's one for me for sure. I'm gonna have to give my runner up to Resident Evil 4. It's one we've already discussed here, but it just I love the game already, and I think that this is like the definitive way to play it now. I don't see myself ever going back to that 2005 game. No disrespect to that. I know there's some cut content from the remake and there's some added content to the remake. So there is still some reason to go back and play, but I just don't see myself ever doing it. That RE4 remake just, it does it for me. So I think that's my number 2. That's my runner up for game of the year right now for me.
My runner up, Resident Evil 4 remake. I don't have anything more to add to it either. We've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. So yeah, I couldn't agree with more with what you said. So let's hop into just the big guns. What is your 2023 game of the year so far? I know there's a lot. So I'm let's see what this is, man. Other than Hello Kitty Racers, obviously
that's obviously number 1, but the hidden gem. The hidden gem answer is this little franchise that, nobody's ever really heard of. Nobody's ever went and watched these movies a million times. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Yeah, I'm like you said, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan either. I watched all the movies, but I don't read the comics. I don't watch the television shows. I'm kind of a casual Star Wars fan. But I'm a humongous third-person action-adventure fan. And this game, I thought the best thing about Star Wars Jedi Survivor was that they gave you freedom to kind of play your way and with the different, your different stances and your different lightsaber types. So I went in the whole way doing the dual wielding. So I got the 2 sabers, so I'm going super fast, and it kind of made it more of like a character action style game, which is what I love the most, and opposed to being the more Soulsy style game from Fallen Order, which I loved Fallen Order too, but this felt more my speed, super quick, on the fly, constantly going. You're constantly getting new powers introduced that not only help in battle, but help in platforming, help in exploration. The Metroidvania elements work so well because the worlds are usually so big, but there's always like key little things that you can't reach until you get a power. Then you come back to it, and it just feels so rewarding to finally be able to reach that destination that you couldn't before. And, Holo Tactics, you got your little hub area, you going in and playing a little tactics game that's so fun. And you're getting different cards that you can use in that game throughout your journey. And yeah, I played this thing endlessly and had a great time with Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
That I didn't know that would be yours, because I know you have so many big picks from this year. I'm glad to hear that despite how the game launched somewhat rocky for a lot of people, it sounds like for the most part, the experience as a whole was just obviously remarkable, which is really cool to hear. I haven't played it, so I can't say anything about it, but
yeah,
I'm glad you loved it, man. That's awesome.
It's tough because I didn't really have those experiences. I know that PC players were really, really bad off. Like they got a really, really bad port of the game. Playing it on PS5, I found it to be pretty solid. I know, some people I'll never play a 30 frames per second game. I just played it on the 30 frames per second. It was nice, pretty smooth experience. And I didn't really mind that at all. Final Fantasy 16, also 30 frames per second. I think that conversation might be a little bit overblown with people who are just refusing to play anything in outside of 60 frames. It's I don't know, I think you might be limiting yourself quite a bit there, but that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to discredit. It did launch in a poor state for a lot of people there. That's undeniable and it's unacceptable, but at
the end of the day, it sounds like they crafted a good game above and beyond that, which needs to be praised, as we talked about before. Sure. And that's actually a topic we can think about for another time, the whole frame rate versus fidelity versus whatever. That could be an interesting topic people might like. So yeah, I keep this. I'm a broken record saying I won't say much about every game, but then I do. This isn't going to be a surprise at this point, but my game of the year so far is Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, I've already talked about that enough on this show and today. I don't need to add more to it. It's in my top 3, if not my favorite game of all time, period. Yeah. So I call that recency bias, call it what you will, but it's a near perfect game, if not a perfect game to me. So yeah, that's all I'll say.
Speaking of topics, that would be a good one. Like our 10 out of 10 games. We should definitely throw that up in a community poll at some point. That'd be a fun one.
Yeah.
So those are our game of the year, our winners, and our
Ramblies.
runner. Yeah, the 2023 Ramblies. So thank you for tuning in
about your Ramblies.
Well, hey, actually, this next topic could almost be an award in and of itself in a weird way, a kind of negative award, similar to disappointed, but not quite on the disappointed level. We're going to be talking about this is in the community poll. Oh, and I got to say this, the community poll that we put up, it tied between PlayStation 2 hidden gems and 2023 games that we're worried about. So we're going to do PS2 hidden gems next week. We're going to do 2023 games that we're worried about this week, since it kind of ties into the award segment here. And we'll also do another community poll for next week. So we'll have 2 community topics next week, and we'll do that and what we're playing for next week.
You guys made it really hard for us by tying it, because we're like, how of course of the votes it has to be tied. So, and if you're watching this and you see that community post and you don't vote, that, I mean, that's fine. You don't have to, but just know it's a cool way that your voice can be a part of this as we grow it, and just be a fun way to have what you want to hear talk about in each of the shows. So yeah, feel free to just toss a vote. It takes like 3 seconds. So, yeah, but no pressure, obviously. So all right, man. So games releasing this year we're worried about.
So I'm checking right now. It is still tied as of recording this right now at 33%. I just wanted to make sure. All right. So games we are worried about 2023. I don't really have a format or a segment that I want to do this in. Let's just kind of go through a couple and talk about some things that we are worried about releasing in 2023. I'll kick this off for you. Kind of make this simple. October. I worry about everything in October. What the hell are you publishers doing?
Just the month. You're just worried about the month.
They are cannibalizing each other. Forza Motorsport on the 10th, Assassin's Creed Mirage on the 12th, Lords of the Fallen on the 13th, Alan Wake 2 on the 17th, Spider-Man 2 on the 20th, Super Mario Bros. World on the 20th, Metal Gear Solid Collection on the 24th, Alone in the Dark on the 25th. What are you guys doing? That's a horrible idea.
It's a good thing we're not like a review channel like these big guys, and you have to like cover everything. We would lose our minds.
Absolutely. But I mean, like, you're telling me Lords of the Fallen, you're telling me you think it's a good idea to be in the same month as Assassin's Creed Mirage and Spider-Man 2, 2 other third-person action adventure games? That makes no sense to me. Get the hell out of October. No offense to Lords of the Fallen. Get the hell out. Honestly, I'm not trying to be rude. There's a couple other ones in here. Even maybe Assassin's Creed Mirage. You might need to get to November, get to December pretty quickly here. I know you have Avatar launching in December as well, which that's another game I'm kind of worried about. That could be an absolute disaster. Just we have no idea, but I worry about that Avatar game in general. But yeah, my first shout out's going all to everything in October. I worry about everything in October except Super Mario Bros. World and Spider-Man 2. Everything else, I'm like, that's dangerous. That's a dangerous month.
I mean, yeah, Kyle, that's a cheeky way to just cover like 50 games and take all. I don't think any of the ones I had, well, except for one of them. I'll just wrap up Alan Wake 2 is in there, because I'm only worried about it, not because of what you said, but just because the first game does have such a cult following. And even though it's not considered a perfect game by any means, certainly the gameplay, that I'm worried about in the extent of there's a very certain tone and feel and campiness to Alan Wake, the first one, that although they're trying to very much lean more into survival horror, purely in psychological horror, I just hope they don't lose some of what made the original feel oftentimes kind of cheesy and quirky. So like, how do you balance that? So I'm worried about it on that front, but I think they're being very transparent up front, trying to show at least enough, or at least some gameplay to be like, hey, we're kind of keeping it the same, but more scary. But man, you just stole the whole month of there. Jeez Louise, man. Way to be a cheeky little punk there and do that. It is reminiscent of when Titanfall 2 though released between what was it, Battlefield 1 and Call of Duties, which just sucks because Titanfall 2 was like, it's such a freaking good game.
Yeah. And it's
like you have to, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you have to imagine that one, if not multiple, of these games are going to be pushed like this. I mean, games are constantly pushed. So like you have to imagine even a month or two before, there's going to be some of these that either get moved up or moved out of the month. Like to think that it wouldn't happen would be crazy in this era of things constantly moving, right? You'd have to assume.
Yeah, you have to assume, but we have had these months before that are just like 2020. I believe it might have been October, November 2020, where it was like Cyberpunk, Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legions was right around that. It was just like these huge games that were definitely, competitors of one another. And like this holiday way, regardless, yeah, I agree. Something will get pushed. And for the sake of Lords of the Fallen, I hope that game gets pushed, because that's a horrible idea to go up against us. So I guess my first one's going to be Lords of the Fallen there, but staying on your point with Alan Wake 2, the swapping between the detective and Alan Wake, I wonder how people are going to feel about that as well. Like, oh man, people who want to play exclusively as Alan Wake in this sequel, or maybe how much time is Alan Wake even going to get? Because what we've seen of the gameplay so far is just the detective, going around and some third person shooting from her perspective. And so I'm wondering, is Alan Wake going to be kind of relegated to a side role? But I think they have said it's a 50-50 split on that. I can't confirm that, but that is kind of, I'm curious about that as well.
Here's my theory. There's nothing to base this on, but they're being very coy about the Alan Wake segments, right? My theory is, again, nothing to base this on, is that maybe they're doing that because they're going to really lean very heavily into like crazy, maybe even Silent Hill-esque psychological horror stuff with the Alan Wake sections based on the story of the first and him being lost in, the whole darkness stuff. Again, I'm not good at remembering story things. I just wonder if they're being coy with that because they're going to really like surprise players with the horror being like this element of his part of it. I guess maybe like the medium, how that kind of, I know that's different of how like split the screen, but I just wonder if they're going to surprise people. I hope, again, that's just kind of a theory, but you're right. It does look kind of by the books when you see the other character just kind of like over the shoulder RE4 style stuff. Right. And that's not reductive. That's just saying that's what it looks like so far.
Yeah. And I'm totally down for that. Like if once again, I'm not a huge Alan Wake guy. If Alan Wake was barely in it at all, I really wouldn't care at all. As long as that gameplay, if the gameplay looks that damn good and stays that damn good, yeah, I'd be on board for that. But I am curious how the fan base responds to that. But a game that I am, and I don't mean to be so rude here to some of these titles that are going under the radar, but Fort Solace, I've never in my life seen a game that is set to release in 1 month. 1 month that has shown nothing as to what we can expect from this game in terms of the moment-to-moment gameplay. We got Roger Clark and Troy Baker as like the two main protagonists, or maybe one protagonist, one antagonist. I don't know how they're going to set it up. I don't know anything about this game. They've shown, as far as I'm aware, as far as I have seen, I've not seen a second of gameplay of this. And if what we have seen is gameplay, then that makes me even more worried, because it seems like you're just walking around. And
what is this game? I've never heard of this game.
I wish I could tell you. It seems like a horror game, I guess. You're on a ship, I think. It's got some, the visuals are stunning for a smaller title like this. They got some big named voice actors, but Jeffrey, I don't know anything about this thing. Anything.
And when does it launch?
August.
And we don't know literally what even the game is?
I have no idea.
That's unfortunate.
It's crazy, man.
What?
And I went and looked this up. I hope that there hasn't been a trailer that popped up since I looked it up, but I still, from what I see, the last trailer for this game was a few months ago, and it was no real gameplay shown off of this thing at all.
That's a concern. That's a wider concern, but you just have to imagine that's going to get pushed, because like if there's zero about it, I can't, and I'm pretty much in the zeitgeist of game stuff, and I've never even heard of it, which is concerning.
I gotta give myself an L here, I think.
Oh no, what happened?
5 days ago, there's a new gameplay trailer. I'm gonna go through it real quick and see if there's anything in here. Okay, that's no, fine. This still looks. I'm scanning through it.
Mm-hmm.
This still looks. This does not tell me enough about this game. It seems like some kind of puzzle solving and stuff. Regardless, that does not change my opinion at all. It's a 1 minute slice. No, that does not change my opinion. I'm still very, very worried about that game for sure.
Well, I I think the fact that never even heard of it and you have, and like there's nothing about it is a big thing to be worried about. I'm going to go on a flip side here because I know you've talked about this. On the flip side of this coin, this game has been heavily, and I mean heavily pushed and marketed. And that's not a bad thing. I just mean it heavily has been. And that the game I'm worried about is Immortals of Avium. That this could be the flip side of the coin. Now, I'm not saying this is someone that's not excited. This looks very much up my alley. Like first person magic based, fast paced action sounds fantastic. My concern is also when you sometimes heavily and overly market and have influencers and YouTube channels push it. That's not a bad thing. It's just you could also be trying to cover up that maybe the game really isn't going to be good. Again, I have nothing to base that on. I want it to be good. I'm just worried because seeing so much about it from places I wouldn't expect, like random YouTube channels, just makes me wonder, like, are they pushing it because they're like, crap, we just have to like get everyone hyped and it may not be good, or because they strongly do believe in it, which I hope for, and it comes out that way. It just looks like it could go either way for me. Like it's super unpolished and broken, or they blow everyone away, which I hope. So that one to me is, I'm just very worried about for what that's worth.
You know, the thing that worries me is I wonder if people are going to be willing to buy a full price new IP. You know, this is $70. Yeah. This is a $70 big boy.
Who's the developer and publisher? Do you know? Is it someone that has a pedigree?
No, they're actually it's a new team that is they're getting funding. I forget from who. It's just some rich dude who ended up funding the game, but it's coming from like one of the, I believe the creative director of an old Call of Duty game, who they also have some talent who who used to work at EA on like some of the Dead Space games. So there's some pedigree on that team, no doubt about it. And it seems like they just got like serious funding for this thing from some rich dude that he had contacts with. So I don't know.
Okay. All right. What do you got? Do you got another? I got two more. So hit me if you got another one.
I'll go through really quick here. This is my most anticipated game of the year, but obviously I worry about Starfield. Everybody who has a brain should be worried about Starfield. Is the main quest going to be bullshit? Is this going to be totally broken? There's just so, how fun will the exploration be? Will the writing be better than the typical Bethesda games? There's so many questions here. It's far and away my most anticipated game in development by like, or not in development, but that would probably be like Grand Theft Auto 6 or whatever. But like, this is my most anticipated game of the year by like, so far it's not even, it's hilarious how much more anticipated I am for this game than anything else. Wow. But I have a brain. I know that these humongous RPGs tend to launch disastrously. You know, even the Witcher 3 launched poorly. Cyberpunk obviously launched poorly. Fallout 4, these huge RPGs, they tend to launch pretty poorly. So I am worried about that. That's an obvious one though.
That's an obvious one that I had as well. And I'll be honest, I'm not like super pumped for it. I'll try it out because it's on Game Pass. I have no fanfare for it. I love Skyrim and Oblivion are two of my favorite games, but again, not a big sci-fi guy. And I played No Man's Sky a little bit. That was fine. So I'm not even like, I wouldn't even like, if this wasn't a Game Pass thing, I wouldn't play it. I would have no interest. I'm just worried from the sense that, Bethesda games, while beloved, for myself included, generally launch very jankily, if that's a word.
Yeah.
That being said, again, there is some of that charm with that, as long as it doesn't break the structure of the game, and as long as the game, as you've always said, has variety and keeps you moving in a not linear, but in a cohesive fashion where you're not like, holy cow, there's a billion planets and I don't know what to do, or what do I do? Do I do anything? As long as it sticks to that stuff, for sure. But yeah, I think everyone has some level of skepticism, but it's interesting that you're so hyped and feel that, and I don't have any hype. And I feel that. I think that just points to the fact that it's a big game. Of course, there's going to be a lot of unknown with it, right?
Yeah, it's maybe the most ambitious game that's ever been made, and like that's that. And then the crazy thing is, we can say that and kind of be confident that there's some truth in that. So of course that it runs the risk of being a disaster at launch. So that's an obvious one there. I'm gonna give a couple quick shout outs. The Expanse, Telltale's new game. My only worry here is that people don't support this. It comes out, reviews poorly, whatever, and then we don't see the Wolf Among Us 2. That's the only thing I care about here is that we don't see the Wolf Among Us 2. I think I told you this before. I literally went and pre-ordered the damn Expanse just so I can ensure that my money's going there so that we can hopefully get the Wolf Among Us 2 in the next in the next couple of years. Did you say you had another one that you wanted to shout out?
Well, wait, didn't you say, and also real quick, didn't you say the Wolf Among Us is one of the games that brought you back into gaming?
Yes, the game.
A while back. I feel like you said that one time. Is that correct?
100%. That is the game that got me back into gaming. The individual game that's responsible for it.
So it makes sense that you would hold a lot of weight and praise for Telltale, even though it's different now. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Really quick, I don't have much to say on this. I'll let you do your last one. I'm not super pumped, but I have a lot of worry, is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game coming in October. The reason why, and I love asymmetrical horror games, Dead by Daylight's one of my favorites. The developer Ilphonic just they keep trying new games and they dip out of them, which is really concerning. You know, they did the Friday the 13th, which was a mess and a disaster, but it was fun for what it was. But they dipped out of that because of licensing stuff. Then they did like the Predator game, which was cool, but then they dipped out of that. It's like they keep making new projects, but then they don't support them. And that's just a big concern. And so I think with this one, which is highly niche, you already have the Leatherface in Dead by Daylight. By the way, Dead by Daylight's been going on for 7+ years and is one of the most supported games in terms of the developer. I'm just worried that it's not that it won't be fun, but Ilphonic just constantly bails on their games. And these are purely multiplayer games to an extent. So I'll try it out. It's coming into Game Pass, but I'm just worried that it's going to be another one in 3 months' time. They either lose the license or they're just like, we'll just move on to the next property, and then you lose all your players that spent money on it, you know. So
yeah, I'm with you. That's one I thought about as well. I'm worried about that one also. Similar in that vein of the live service realm. I'm worried about Exoprimal, and this is a total different reason to be worried. I'm worried that this will do well. That's my worry. I okay. hate to be this guy. I don't want this to poison the well at Capcom. Capcom's been on such a hot streak. Please don't send these talented ass developers off to make games like this. Let's get to the Code Veronicas. Let's get to the Dino Crisis. Let's get to the Onimusha. Let's get to the I'm kind of blanking on the Devil May Cry. We need a new Devil May Cry. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff. We can't be supporting Exoprimal. This thing got to die quick.
So you don't want it to do well because you don't want people to then be like, oh, well, Capcom is now, because Capcom will then be like, we're only going to make live service games. We should state though, this is live service, but it's a full price game. They're running this as a full price game and as a live service with free to play elements. So that's a big concern, and just for a lot of other reasons. So
yeah, that was what I got to be clear. What I said was a little bit rude. I'm not saying I want this thing to actually die, but I do want those talented developers to go work on other things. But yeah, I agree. I am worried about it from the basic structuring of how the game is being made and released. I'm worried about that as well from that standpoint. So a lot of worry for Exoprimal across the board.
I hear what you're saying. I know it doesn't come across as rude. It comes across as like, we just don't want to see we don't want to see those kind of chances where it's like, then it's not the single player focus as well. It's then just the whole monetize you to get the multiplayer stuff. And then when that dies, the servers die, you can't play the game. So like, there's a lot of valid concern, even if it is a good game, you know? So
absolutely. Yeah. So
do you have more? I don't have any more. So if you have more, go ahead and shout them out.
I have one kind of weird worry, but no, actually not really. Cause I was starting to make this list before Baldur's Gate 3 got delayed. I was kind of worried about Baldur's Gate 3, before it got, or before it actually got pushed up and then delayed back on PlayStation. It got pushed up to August 3rd on PC, so it wouldn't be around Starfield. But right. I was a little bit worried about that. Launching right next to Starfield seemed like a horrible idea, but I think that was a good idea on PC. I do think it's a pretty bad idea to not launch physically. I feel like that player base on who knows. I hope it does well because the game looks super ambitious, super cool. But yeah, I'm a lot less worried now that it got delayed or pushed up out of the way of Starfield. So that would be my last one there.
Cool. That's a smart, and that's what I think with October, we'll see a little bit of that. Either some ready games that have gone platinum or gold, whatever they call it, will either get pushed up or pushed out. You have to imagine if a smaller team for Baldur's Gate 3, in quotes, that you'd have to imagine some of the big guys are going to be on that as well, so
for sure. So my people, that is our show We appreciate you for tuning in. We appreciate you for stopping by. And yeah, man, Jeffrey, you have any parting words you want to hit the good people with? A little bit long today, but not too bad.
Yeah, we again, we're trying to tighten up the show. We're trying again. You got to thank you for being patient with us and watching. Again, we know we have a really solid little community here, and we appreciate that. So just know it's a work in progress. We're trying to tighten it up and do all that stuff. So just keep on smoothing.
Keep it smoothing, keep it going, and hit us in the comments with any of these topics you want to discuss. Kick back, kick forth. We'll kick the ball, and you do the what are they?
You just lost it all in there.
What's the soccer term? Goal. Appreciate you guys.
That was a disaster. Okay, bye. Keep smoothing. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Take it easy, guys. See you soon. Goodbye.